All right, episode 37, Flite Test Community Cast podcast. Welcome, Mike and Pat.
Well, thanks for having us, guys.
Good to be here.
Yeah. So in this episode, we're going to, Joe and I are going to have, we have special guests, Mike Finley and Sean Patrick Murphy. Did I get that right or did I get it backwards?
No, you got it totally backwards. You just got my son.
What's wrong with me? Oh my God.
That's my son.
Okay.
No. People get it backwards all the time. It's Patrick Shaw.
Patrick Shaw.
You don't have to say my middle name. I don't.
I'll just call you Patrick Murphy. Okay, we're going to start all over. Screw this.
Thank you. Patrick Murphy. Perfect.
Oh, you were serious about starting over. Okay.
Heck yeah. That was awful. I'm not messing that up. Okay. All right.
Welcome back to the Aviation RC Noob Podcast. You found us. My name is Joe.
And I'm Matt.
We're here to be with you along your journey and to share our experiences in RC aviation. If you have any questions, thoughts, or want to share a flight story, hit us up at aviationrcnoob@gmail.com. Now, buckle in. Let's take off.
It's episode 37, Flite Test Community Cast. We have special guests Mike Finley and Patrick Murphy here. Welcome, guys.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for being here.
Yeah, we appreciate being here.
All
Wait,
right.
I'm here. You're here.
We're all here in the same space virtually. It's awesome.
Virtually.
Can we start over?
Can we do what?
What?
Would you like to start over? We can do that.
No.
Okay, good.
If we start over again, I'm launching it.
All right. So this is in this episode, Joe and I are going to talk to these guys about their podcast. We mentioned them last week in our What Do We Listen To episode. And these are some of the guys who inspired me to even think about like should I start a podcast? Why? Because I noticed at a certain point, there was sort of a waning of podcasts that were out there having to do with RC hobby, especially devoted towards the new guys. And so I looked at theirs and they kind of inspired me to consider even going and doing a podcast. And then, I think our story is evident if you listen to the first couple ones. So if you haven't, I urge you to go back and you can hear our origin story, I guess. Basically, we're going to highlight these guys and see what they've been up to. Learn a little bit about what their podcast is about and learn a little bit about what they did and how much fun it's been. I think we're also going to talk about, as always, we're going to talk about our hobby adventures, and we're going to talk about which craft are we talking today about, Joe?
I think, the P-38 Lightning.
P-38 Lightning. One of my favorites.
Nice plane. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Very nice plane.
Good. Okay. Well, so without further ado, why don't we start off with what we've been doing in the hobby? Pat, have you been doing anything in the hobby?
I honestly have not been doing a whole lot. The most recent thing I have going on is working on a 6-scale stretch built Sopwith Camel for Flite Fest this coming year.
Wow.
So
how big is it's 6 scale? How big is that?
It's hang on. Well, you don't video, so I'd bring over the fuselage, but you can't see it on things. But hey, I'll be right back. Hold on, don't go. You can still hear me, right?
Oh, you lost one by.
I think I knocked something
He kicked his radio over.
But
yeah.
Okay. So
good.
It's about that big.
It's about
My hands
4 feet long.
3 feet apart. Yeah.
From firewall to tail.
Yeah.
There goes a fuselage just flying off.
That's just the test everything to fit prototype. It's not. Yeah.
It's not the finished
disposable.
product. Okay.
Yeah. So no 6-scale Sopwith Camel. About 3 feet, 3.5 feet nose to tail.
Okay. 4 foot wingspan.
So it's going to be a mixture of foam board, balsa. I'm thinking I'm going to do the wings, hot wire the wings, but then I'm working on trying to make it look like that scalloped fabric look as well, and I think I got that worked out how I want to do it. It's just a matter of doing it.
Are you going to be creating false ribs?
Yeah, I think basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to hotwire the undercamber wing, and then take foam board strips and glue them on top, and then take a lightweight spackle and fillet that in, and then fiberglass it.
Ooh,
yeah, that's what I'm thinking right now.
Nice. Well, that sounds like quite the project. It's a good project.
Yeah. It's there's a few people. I don't know if it's on the forum or not. It should be. If it's not, I'll yell. Anyway, this is Josh Orchard's idea. I don't know if anybody, some of y'all know Josh Orchard. But he came up with this idea, and he's building. I forget what he's building, but it's something that is not. Well, okay. The idea was a World War I airplane.
Okay.
This is a post-World War I airplane, but I don't think we can mention that. I don't think that's allowed to be said.
A lot of the post-World War I aircraft were very similar up until like the very beginning of World War II almost. Where they really started going, here's something new. We can actually just get away with one wing.
Yes.
Otherwise, they all kind of looked very similar.
Yeah. Well, so Josh established the baseline rules and then completely violated them right off the bat. It was his idea, and there's a few other people building some stuff, and hopefully we'll have like some Dawn Patrol stuff going on, some 1/6 scale, some World War I airplanes at Flite Fest this coming year.
Okay, good. Well, that's awesome. So if you're new and you don't really know a whole lot about it, Flite Test is the festival we've gone to, and we obviously you guys have been to. It's a lot of fun, but more importantly, they have group builds. They're basically kind of the community, and that's obviously what your podcast was focused on. But the community that surrounds what they've created as a company is just it's a lot of fun. It's really supportive of the hobby and inventing new and trying crazy and having fun, really. And in that spirit, I'll call him Mr. I Build Anything. Would that be Josh Orchard in a nutshell?
Yeah.
He's like a master builder.
I build anything very, very well.
Yeah. And pretty.
Yeah, he takes the time to make it look just like it should. He does a great job. So
he's a craftsman.
That's for sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, and I don't know if you know this, Matt, but so Flite Test and the FTCA have been talking about ways to engage in the community.
Yeah.
And your name has come up as one of the people who's very instrumental in starting and getting these community builds going.
I do
well,
that.
Look
I guess.
at you.
I didn't even realize. Yeah. I had no idea that I've been mentioned.
I've been in conversations with people. I know this.
Well, I appreciate the mention.
Not just for me either.
No, mine, the one that I champion is the Buildery, because it was one of those ways to champion how quick and easy it is to build a Flite Test anything, for the most part. And so 4 planes, 4 weeks. Good luck. And then we have, the one guy built 13 in the month. I'm like, oh my God. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's wild.
He really blew me away with that. But anyway, so it's just, I don't know. I think that's one of the most fun parts about that community is when somebody posts a challenge and everybody kind of pig piles on, and you have no idea what's really going to come out of it. And almost always a lot of fun.
Oh yeah. The people in the community are unbelievable. I mean, they build some of the craziest things you've ever seen in your life, and it's so fantastic. And everybody, including the Flite Test crew themselves, actually get so involved in some of these things with the community, which is what's amazing about the community.
My favorite is going through the build tents and seeing the younger kids, they're middle school to high school to elementary school age, and they're building these huge, ridiculous flying things. And a lot of times they fly. It's kind of crazy.
Yeah. Yeah, that triangular plane, this past one was immense. I was like,
Yeah.
I think they've got the right idea. I think they're going to pull this off. And sure enough, they did by the end of it.
Yep.
Nice. Have you flown anything lately, Pat?
I honestly, I have not. It's been quite a while. Like I was telling you before the podcast, there are plans developing. Hopefully, for the weekend after Thanksgiving, we'll go out and do some slope soaring on our local area here.
Cool.
Which to me is my favorite kind of RC flying. It's just magical.
Yeah.
So hopefully the winds are right for that day. But I haven't flown anything in a while. My focus and hobbies. So I had quadruple bypass surgery almost a year ago now.
Wow. Welcome back to the world of the living and healthy.
Oh, thank you. I'm still trying to get. I'm almost there.
Yeah,
I'm there, but I'm not where I was before.
Yeah, my father had a similar thing. It's a long road to recovery, but it's usually everybody who comes back from that is, wow, this is so much better.
Yeah, no, I feel good. The strange thing is, I felt I was I lost a lot of muscle when I was down, and I haven't recovered that yet. It's been difficult for me. I need to work harder myself. I went through. I don't mean to take this off on a tangent or anything, but
well, look, one of the questions I have is, where have you been? What's been going on? So this explains that question pretty well for you, at least a little bit.
Yeah. So I had the surgery, and I highly recommend not having to have bypass surgery. So if you're out there and you're not trying to be healthy, you change your ways. Just you don't want to go through this, and you probably don't want to be dead either. So those are your two options.
They pretty much are. Yeah.
Yeah. So I went through it. I went through cardiac rehab, and I was like a freaking all-star in cardiac rehab.
Yeah.
They were like, wow, we can't believe how great you're doing.
Here's a mile. Go run it.
Yeah, I still don't feel. I still get fatigued quicker than I think I should. Anyway, I have an appointment with my cardiologist this Friday. So hopefully, everything's cool, everything's okay, and maybe I just need to work a little bit harder. I don't know. But anyway,
that's not that bad of a thing to hear,
Yeah. In that time, I kind of, when I was laid up, I was YouTubing it a lot, and I just, you go down rabbit holes, and I got into this weird place where I was like, oh, that's that knife making. That seems cool. I think I can do that.
Yeah. And
then it somehow just became, oh wait, restoring old axes. That's cool. I can do that's even easier than knife making. So that's what I've been doing. I've been like restoring axes. It's crazy.
Wow.
I love it. It like I've been making handles out of wood. I've got this awesome. I bought an old stone sharpening wheel.
Okay.
Like,
the old school. What you see Bugs Bunny using?
Yeah, the grindstone.
The grindstone, yeah.
Or putting your axe to the grindstone for real.
And then I built a base for it, and I built a foot treadle for it. So I got that going on, and I mean, like, I got this sitting right beside me because I love it. So
Pat,
this is,
do me a favor. Where's your YouTube for that? Do you have videos that we can all watch it?
No, there are people far better than me that do that. But yeah, I hear you. There are things that I should be doing YouTube for, and we'll continue on that line.
Okay,
but,
cool.
Yeah, but yeah, so I've kind of gotten into like restoring vintage tools.
Nice.
And my neighbor sells firewood.
Okay.
So I go over and I just chop firewood. I'll chop some. I can't do a whole lot yet, but I just go. I'm getting exercise, and it has a purpose. And I'm using these axes that I've restored, so it makes me really happy.
Awesome. That sounds like you found a pretty
in
good
all
spot.
likelihood, you could chop more wood than I can.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
I'll be pretty winded about a couple chops in. I'll be like, whee!
But I've got some serious axes that can split and chop some wood.
Nice.
Give it another year or so, Patrick will be out there like Captain America, just grab the log and bust it in half.
There you go.
I'll chew through it like a beaver.
There you go.
Nice. Well, I'm looking
Yeah.
forward
So
to
anyway,
seeing it.
yeah. So that's kind of my last year has been recovering from that,
Oh,
basically.
excellent.
And anyway, I could go on about. Anyway, let's move on from that.
Okay, well, I'm again glad you're still here. Glad that you've almost finished recovery. I'm hoping you
I'm
pretty
getting
much are there.
I'm getting
Good. And I'm hoping to see more of you on the forums and just kind of seeing what kind of nonsense you get yourself into with just with the hobby in general. You know,
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it. We
Well,
miss you there. You know.
I mean, I since our last podcast, I did buy a real airplane, so I've got that going on too.
Oh, whoa! Wait a sec. Okay, well then you will be now. Hold on, we're gonna add these notes over here in the full scale pilot training section. I'm gonna be passing it over to you too, so we'll make sure to add that in there. Okay, all right, Pat, got it. Okay, well then, if that's what you've done in the hobby, at least for the RC hobby, why don't we move on to Mike, see what he's been up to?
Yes.
Well, I can tell you that I'm as happy as anybody that Pat's okay. He's one of my best friends first. And I miss him already and haven't seen him in what? God, it's been 2 years now.
It's been ridiculously long, dude.
It has been a long time, and I miss that guy. I mean, that's my brother from another mother, truly.
Absolutely. Yep.
So, but anyway, as far as stuff that I've done in the hobby, I've kind of gotten out of airplanes a little bit. I do a lot more FPV, so I fly quads, but I haven't done a lot of that this year either, because of, as everybody knows, COVID.
Yeah, COVID.
Yeah, and I just haven't been out.
That's fair, man.
Everybody's working
been
from
having
home, and I actually got into fishing a little bit this year, which I used to do a lot of bass fishing. So I got back into that. But I do have a friend that I used to work with, and his son I think he just turned 11 or 12, that I'm actually going to take a pair of the goggles that I started with and let him use them and kind of get started into the FPV, because he seems interested in it. So
That's awesome, dude.
I'm going to
really cool.
help him out. I've
do you know-
got some builds. I'm sorry, what?
No, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to ask, does he seem more interested in quadcopters or like a plane with first person view?
Well, he's more interested in the quadcopters. His father is an RC pilot,
Oh, okay.
and he's actually from England. So it's kind of neat that, you're talking to a guy, from England that is into RC, and now he lives in the middle of nowhere, Kansas, and yeah. And he tried to get his son into it, and his son really just didn't care for it that much. But then he saw a couple of videos and, of FPV stuff, and he's like, oh my God, that looks incredible. I want to try that. So I'm actually going to get some goggles and take up my quads over, and we're going to go fly here in the next couple of weeks. We just haven't done it yet. Things have been a little crazy at work, so I haven't been able to, get that hooked up, but going to do that. And I've got some builds I haven't flown yet that I'm looking to fly, quadcopter wise.
Yeah.
And really looking forward to that. So
How long does a quadcopter build take for you?
I can usually get one done in about 4 hours, as long as I have all the parts.
Really?
Yeah, because the frames are pre-cut, carbon fiber. The hardest thing is to make sure that all 4 ESCs sync up correctly. The flight software, the flight controller software is right, and you get it bound up, and then you just go out and fly, and then you do tuning after the fact. Generally, most of the tuning done now is, straight off of like Betaflight or whatever. Yeah, it's pretty much on par. All you got to do is go out and fly.
Yeah, the core default for Betaflight is pretty darn good.
Yeah,
It's ready for
real
almost
good.
everybody to go, unless you're doing weird stuff, like unless you have a specific thing you're doing.
Well, either that, or if in fact you have, you know, if you're experienced enough and are either racing or freestyling, which freestyling is just going out and acting a fool pretty much. But I mean, it really is, and that's pretty much what I do.
Kind of how I fly my planes.
Exactly. And you know, one of the reasons why I even got into RC, well, of course, RC was just, you know, the planes was just because if I heard an airplane, I look up. I mean, I'm 58 years old. I hear a plane, I still look up. I mean, and I remember being a really little kid and remember to this day of having dreams of flying like a bird, truly.
Yeah.
In my dreams, I remember like flying through trees and all this. And I mean, I still remember
Still
that.
have
So
those dreams, by the way.
I don't have them as much now because I can go out and do it.
Nice.
To
And
where
showing us this
when
quad.
I was a kid, of course we had nothing like that, and I always dreamed of it and knew that, you know, that was, at least at that time, that was something I'd never get to experience. Well, when I throw on a pair of goggles now and go out and fly around the trees in the park and all that, it is exactly what I thought it was going to be flying, other than just a feeling of the G-force and that stuff.
Yeah.
Other than that, same exact feeling, and it's taken over. I mean, you can ask Pat. I got a basement full of planes right now.
Yeah.
I haven't flown in over 2 years.
Yeah.
Too busy with that FPV.
Yeah, I really got into it. I really like it. I'm not saying I don't like planes. I mean, I've got a few up here.
Now, do you
the
FPV with
smaller
the
ones,
planes,
but-
or do you just?
No, I don't, because they're not.
It's not the same.
It's not the same, because as a bird, you know, birds, they duck and dive and weave and really quickly.
You need to make
Planes
a
don't
penalty.
do that.
Just kidding.
Well, but I understand what you're saying. I do, but it's not quite the same.
No,
'Cause
you have a lot more mobility with a quad.
Yes, and you can fly, you know, forward, backward, side to side. Just
Dance around
and-
the sky, really.
yeah, and of course the guys that inspired me to do it, of course, are so much better pilots than I am. But you know, because I'm really not that great of a pilot by any means. But God, I still love it. It doesn't matter if I crash them, because I'll rebuild it and go out and do it again.
Yeah.
So,
What is you call yourself the worst of all time?
yeah, worst of all time. FPV is my name. Is Woat FPV. So, yeah. Matter of fact, hang on one second here.
I got you beat,
I
brother.
know the viewers can't see it, but I'll show it to you guys.
We'll
That
describe it.
is,
Nice.
that's a caricature that a guy named Tim Michael did for me. Unbelievable guy, great artist, but he actually made the caricature, and then oh my God, I've lost his name. Oh, he's going to be mad at me too. But then I had the guy actually make stickers and everything.
Yeah.
Because this is, well, they call them slaps in the FPV community, and I've
Okay,
had
yeah.
a bunch of slaps made, and you take them around and trade them and give them to people and stick them on just whatever, you know.
Yeah,
And
when
it's
you
just
get
fun.
over 50, like names and words and why you went into the basement completely escape your mind.
Yeah, I know. Trust me.
What does it mean when you're not 50 and it's happening already?
That means
You're
when you
just-
turn
you're
50,
just-
you're in bigger trouble.
You're precocious.
Well, see, the younger generation now has the problem where we don't have to go to the basement. All we have to do is think about something. Go, oh, I want to search that. Pull up the tab to go to Google. Lined up to type, and also, what was I going to search for?
Oh, I do that. I do that.
Yeah,
Yes.
every day.
Oh,
Every
it's the
day.
rule.
Multiple
And it's
times
just
a
like,
day.
what was my thought process? Like, what was my
I
thought
know I was
chain that I was
excited
thinking?
for this. I was excited for this but now I can't remember what it
No
was.
way.
Yeah, like that was the most important thing I needed to search. It had to happen right that second, but in
I
5
literally-
seconds, I
I
lost it.
literally stopped everything else. I can't
Yep.
remember that. Why though? Dang it.
And now you can't remember the other things that you were doing before you did that. Trust me.
Oh, man. Okay. This is not the octogenarian podcast. So let's go back. So
You're not that old. Settle down.
So Mike, I know, I'm kidding around. So Mike, so have you been flying some quads in the last couple of weeks,
No, I haven't flown in probably 3 months.
or have you been wrenching on anything, trying to get it ready?
No, everything's sitting here ready. All I got to do. Well, actually, I need to buy new batteries because my batteries are getting old.
Oh yeah,
But
yeah.
I mean, I can still fly, but
not for long.
times go from 3.5 to 4 minutes to a minute and a half to. So that kind of stinks. But thankfully, I got a lot of them, so I can just keep changing them.
Nice.
See, this explains why we haven't done a podcast in however long.
Yeah.
Well, exactly.
Now,
Yeah,
I do want to pop in real quick because you were talking about needing more batteries and unrelated to anything, but why not? Do you have a preferred battery brand?
Actually, right now, I like the CNHLs, the China Hobby Lines, for my quads. They're cheap and they're really good. I mean, I've got some batteries. I've got 4 that I bought a year and a half ago, and those 4 are still perfect.
Now, do you
Nice.
diligently discharge them back to 3.8 if you haven't used them in a week or whatever?
I don't diligently do anything.
What are you talking about?
Look, I kind of
Crazy.
expected that to be the answer, but I had to ask. Well,
I mean,
because I do that, and I'm sitting there like, man, that's been at 3 whatever for longer than it should. Because I plan to go out on one weekend, and things change, and all of a sudden it's 3 weekends later. I'm like, finally get to go out, and I'm like, oh shoot, these were full charge the whole time. Uh-oh.
Yeah, I've actually got some goggle batteries that have been sitting on probably 4.05 for 4 months.
Oh.
They might not be at 4.05 right now.
The
Did
last time I checked them, they were close.
they look like a brick or do they look like a balloon?
Actually, they still look like bricks, and that's why I like. And I'm not paid by
No.
CNHL either, but
But if they wanted
they've
to pay
been.
you,
Yeah, if they wanted to pay me in batteries, bring them.
Well, actually, that's an interesting topic because
that
that's
is.
one thing that Mike always insisted on our podcast is that we were not going to take any free stuff.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but that was on the podcast channel. But I have a YouTube channel, and if they want to sponsor that YouTube channel, watch me talk about them.
Yeah.
So Mike has double standards depending on where he is.
No. That's not a double standard. Podcast was for the community by the community, if you remember.
That's right.
That's right.
Excuse me.
Well, we'll get into that in just a second.
Yeah.
Why don't we? Thank you for sharing your stories in the last couple of weeks, Mike, and definitely tell us. We're going to be asking more questions about some quads, I'm sure. Why don't we talk to Joe really quick about what he's been up to? I'll tell everybody what I've been up to. We'll go through a couple, I'll call it maintenance items, and then we'll get back into it.
yeah,
Joe,
that sounds
you
good. Fortunately, I actually had time to stand around and build last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Which just kind of seemed wild, but I just committed and said, you know what, I'm building planes today. And so I managed to get I think the last time we sat down to record, I got the wing glued back on the duck, and was kind of working on cut. No, I had not yet. So that Saturday, last Saturday when I got to have some time, actually would have been the day that the last episode went up. I had started cutting the nose section off. Sort of in slices, trying to figure out how much of the nose was I going to have to cut off the sea duct to be able to replace and reinforce and reshape the damage that was done. Because Pat and Mike, basically the sea duct, I crashed into a tree and it tore the wing off from the side of the power pod out. Just took that, and then it nose dived down and its nose landed on a pine cone, which shoved that inward, and the pine cone was actually stuck in the nose.
Yeah.
So it's just nose weight.
It was just a taxi test.
If I had put a little bit of lead on the back, it'd have been fine. Just counteract it. But so right now the duck is on my bench with actually a woodworkers. I don't know what you call them, but they're basically a bar clamp, but the handheld bar clamps.
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Where I shot some foam tack in there to get the side of the fuselage to glue back up against the side of the battery tray, and then I clamped that down to hold it. And it's just been that way since.
Good.
So I got to dive back into that sometime, but I also dove into the HRC7 again, finally.
So that's for you guys, our guest, that's the Hanger RC. And he basically had that same idea. He said, look, I do...
graphic design.
He does graphic design. So he has all access to the printing of like posters and stuff. So he's like, I'm going to print a poster and then I'm going to print a kit. And he has a laser printer that he basically prints out the kit, and then he has the actual printed skin, and he basically unskin, pull off the paper, and you put on the colored skin, and you have a finished product when you're built. Much like rasterized and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I was going to say,
absolutely.
In fact, there is the vulture there.
Oh, that's nice. That is so old school. I love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's a buzzard bomber, I think, is what the original balsa kit that it was kind of loosely based off of.
Mm-hmm. Cool.
Great.
That is cool.
Yeah, and it creates some pretty interesting, really pretty looking skins. And so we've been every once in a while he'll kind of say, hey, you guys should check it out. I've bought a kit or two, and he's definitely been anyway. So Joe has had the 7 over there for a while. What?
You said HRC.
HRC. Yes, the Hanger RC.
Hanger RC. Okay.
If you go www.thehangerrc.com, and it'll show you what he's saying. It's right now. He's got a couple.
I've seen some of his stuff.
Yeah, and that HRC7, it's I'm forgetting
Vans RV7.
Vans RV7, that was it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So the RV7. Oh, great!
Yeah, it flies.
So that's what it's designed off of.
How about this? After the second flight, I decided I needed to go real low, inverted across the field, which was dumb because I don't know how to fly inverted, but it flew so nice. I felt like I could.
Anyway, well, there's also without going too much into repeated memories, there was also you trying to take off with a battery that was half or 1/3 charged, so it barely made the fence line.
That's part of the fun.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the tail section, the empennage, or the back end of the fuselage, the front end of the fuselage, and the engine cowl has all been built, glued up, assembled. The motor's mounted. I got to do the canopy. The wing is attached. I got to do the canopy and then start working electronics.
Nice. Well, good.
Cool.
You made some really good progress. It's looking great.
It's turning out really good. And so Pat and Mike, Sam had when he reached out to us about after we did the first set and he wanted to get send some others, he had reached out to us about colors and all, and it actually ended up he ran a special color scheme so I could have my blue. So
nice.
Yeah, and I think that's now available out there for people to get. I just hadn't finished building mine yet, but it was real nice. So I really do need to finish it up. But I have not been able to get out to fly yet.
Okay.
It's been windy. It's been cold, and other than the Fogey, I don't have anything that can fly right now. The Corsair, but I'm just not ready to put that back in the air yet.
Yeah, you still have a couple. You have a couple repairs to do to it? Real quick ones.
It's repaired. I just don't trust it to be in the air. I think if I have one, because now I got landing gear on it.
Oh, okay.
I can't belly land it anymore, and I'm worried that the next time I land it's going to be the last time.
So when you land it, you just do full elevator up, and the tail will plop itself right back down, and you'll be good. You hope.
No, yeah.
As long as you're slow enough not to balloon when you pull back on the stick.
Yeah, at that point you should be just basically you should be losing lift at that point.
Yeah.
So, well, good. Is there anything else you were working on? Me?
No.
Okay. So we were supposed to have I had remember last time we talked, I had repaired, I think, half of my stack of planes that needs to, that all have like one little thing that needs to get fixed.
Right.
So I went through and repaired a bunch. One of them was my Tony the Explorer. It looks like Tony the Tiger, but it's the FT Explorer. So I got that fixed up. The Luscombe Silver, for Kilroy 07. That was a plane his dad had. He said, if you design this, I'll build it. So I designed that, and I flew it the other day, and it flew pretty well. It's back in service, except this time I have a canopy, like made out of the clear plastic. So I've got to dig a little hole in there to put an FPV camera in it, and then I'll be flying it like I fly full scale stuff, and it'll be a lot of fun.
You've always been a fan of taking the clear plastic and making canopies out of that.
Why not? It should look like that in my mind. That one has enough room.
I need to do that too, by the way. So I might hit you up for advice.
Oh, absolutely. I'll see what I can do to advise you. I don't know how good advice it'll be, but I got opinions. So the previous weekend, not last weekend, but the one before that, I reflew those two. I kind of remained them and flew them around. I think they both fly great. I think one of the control surfaces came loose, maybe from old glue. I needed to reheat back up, but they flew great. And then we were supposed to have a Texas. I'm looking at one of the planes I'm going to fly. We're supposed to have a warbird fly-in at my local flying field. That was one of our big fundraising events. And it's just, bring anything that's a warbird is welcome. If it's not a warbird, don't bring it, like that's just the rule, and we fly all day and have a good time on kibitz and all that stuff. And of course, it took me, as always, it always takes me like all day. I don't know why, but it takes me like all day. And all of a sudden it's like, geez, they're going to do the raffle drawing. And we haven't even left the house yet. What the heck? So, it's like, I show up at like 2:00 and, there's nobody there. Where is everybody? And no, don't be wrong. Like the whole morning, I'm watching the trees like bending over with all the gusting and all the stiff breeze. It's like 15 knot wind with a 30 knot gust. And it's like, okay, not the best day for flying, right? But here I am. I've got my Mustang. I've got the Flite Test Mustang, the original series. I've got the Spitfire, not the Master Series, but the regular one. The one that's been through the ringer and back again. And I brought out the T6, the Hangar RC Texan, T6 Texan. So I had all three in the car, and I'm like, you know what? You want to go fly these anyway? And my son looks at me, he's like, okay, let's go do it. So off we went. And I'm like, do you want to fly? I said, I brought the thing so that we can, buddy box. He's like, no, it's way too windy. So anyway, so he ended up, I flew the Mustang first, and it's unpainted, and in an overcast sky that is so dangerous. I would recommend you do anything to put a color on it. But I flew it around and had a good time with it. It's such a great flyer. I put extra big wheels on it so I could actually land it and take it off from the grass, which was moderately successful. So I was pretty happy about being able to do some of that. Then I grabbed the Hangar RC's Texan. And I think one of the control surfaces, I'm having a hard time with, there must be an oil or something on those dental picks that I've been using for control horns, because the glue seems to be letting go of the control horn. And so I had one of the ailerons let loose, and which isn't a devastating thing because you can still control the plane mostly, but it's not pretty. But I flew that around. I can give you an
idea about that.
Oh, what's that?
I can give you an idea of what's causing that. It's not the oil on it. It's actually, they're made out of polyethylene.
Okay.
And the surface tension's too low. Scrub them up with a little bit of sandpaper.
Okay.
Or something, and the glue will stick much better.
Create a rough surface for it to grab onto. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
I'll do that.
Yeah.
Easy enough. Thank you. Okay, well, so I flew that like a couple circuits, and then it kind of flew like it was tail heavy. And I said, oh, okay. And then it ended up in the beans just at the very end of the runway. And I was like, all right, why don't we just bring it back before I, do something really dumb and actually break it. So I was smart enough to bring it home, and that was cool. And then I brought out the good old Spitfire. And my son, I said, hey, you're like kind of cool. Do you want to just you want to film this or something? Like, 'cause I imagine it's kind of, he goes, no, it's fun to watch, but He said, I'll video it. So we took out the old Spitfire and we ran that battery from beginning to end and, fighting the wind. We had it going at almost just standstill right in front of us, just kind of hovering there because the wind. Yeah. We had full flaps, baby. Flaps were working. We just brought them all the way down and it was just kind of coming right across in front of us a little bit, real slow. Because the wind was, again, that sock was straight out. That sock was straight out. So, we had a good time, and so we flew all 3 planes. All 3 planes came back in mostly one piece. The Spitfire, I was going so slow, I was losing lift. It was at that spot where it was almost going to drop out of the sky. And so it became really unstable for a minute. And then it did a quick turn to the right. And of course, the wind is gusting that way. So it just took the plane and threw it towards the beans. So I full throttled it up and kind of bring it up. And I felt, I heard it, the beans just reached up and grabbed hold of the tail. And I felt it ripped a little bit of the elevator a bit. And I was like, oh no. Well, it landed in the beans. I took it off. I'm like, the tail was wiggling a little bit. But that is not by far the worst thing that's happened to that thing, and it will be back in action next. I got to sit down the other day. Probably tomorrow I'll be sitting down with it and fixing it back up. So 3 planes out.
If the tail is wagging, it's happy. So. If the tail is wagging, it's happy. So it's all good.
Nice. Well, then we're pretty good. I've also been working a little bit on the P61
Well, time out. Black Widow?
Yeah, Black Widow. Do you, Steve Niskoda, do you guys know the 13th Squadron people?
Yeah, I know of them. Yes.
Yeah, Nice 13. He did a P61. The second he did a P61, I'm like, I need to build that. So nice. It's basically an A or F pack size. So it's about 3.5 feet. And so I happen to be, we were talking about it the other episode, and as part of one of the group builds, one of the guys says laser cutter, he cut out a kit of the thing we were doing a group build for. I guess he sent it out to me, which was awesome. But as a surprise, he also cut out the P61 for me and put that in the bundle and sort of put it in. He didn't tell me about that. And all of a sudden I'm like, what in the world is all this for? And he did it in the black foam board. And I was like, what is all the black foam board for?
Oh,
P61.
Nice.
Whoa.
Yeah, those guys do some really good stuff.
They do. I'll tell you what, curling that and not getting creases, I have no idea how Jack does that. That's absolutely incredible because I certainly can't do it. My boom section is just, it looks like somebody stepped on it a bunch. I don't know.
Patience that nobody his age has the need to have.
I know, right? But either way, it still looks really good. I've got to basically tape the wing together, fold that over, and get it back on. But I've got the core sections of the boom, and I was kind of working on the main fuse section. And of course, I'm looking up guts. I'm looking at pictures of the internals because what I want to do is instead of doing foam board, because it's the whole pod of the plane is pretty much a big glass cockpit. Right. Because it's for reconnaissance and nighttime. Basically, it used radar to kind of shoot down planes at night. So that's how it defended. That's what its mission was basically fly for 8 hours, find people with the radar on the plane, and then sneak up on them and shoot them down from behind and underneath them. So it's all glass. And so what I want to do is use the same thing that we were talking about with the canopy, is use the plastic from like a toy window or something like that, or an overhead projector, and basically recreate the canopies. And then with that, I want to put a bunch of little LED lights and recreate the cockpits, and then have an FPV camera and at least probably the gunner section.
Right.
And just kind of have it do that.
Cool.
Well, you're somewhere in this region, right?
I'm in North Carolina, and Joe is in South Carolina.
But you get up this way?
Yes, my kids' ex, my ex, their mother lives up in Philadelphia area.
Yeah, right. Okay, so there's one being restored at the Mid-Atlantic Air Museum in Reading, PA. Ooh. Yeah, I had no idea. The first time I went to their air show a few years ago, I walked up on this thing that was just partially restored, and my jaw just freaking hit the ground, man.
They're such a beautiful thing.
Oh, they're incredible. Incredible.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well,
So
thank you. Cause I now I know I've got 2 reasons to take a trip up that way and spend some time.
there you go.
Nice. All right. Well, look, I don't want to gush on forever about that stuff. I just, that's what I've been working on as a full scale pilot. I've basically been doing some studying. I've still been recovering. I ended up getting a cold a couple weeks ago. And so I've kind of been recovering from that. Pat, you've been doing full scale pilot stuff. Are you a full scale pilot?
I'm working on it. Classic story. I started lessons when I was in high school, and I soloed on my 16th birthday. And then I had no more money, and then college came along, and then I got married and had a family, and everybody has this story. So I think it's been 3 years ago now. I bought a Piper Tri-Pacer, a PA 22-150.
Oh, nice.
4-place single engine, great little airplane.
Mm-hmm.
I got just a mind-blowing deal on it.
Steel, even.
Yeah, really.
Right?
I said it was a steal, even.
It was. It really was. So I was going hard with the lessons, and then COVID hit, and then I had the bypass surgery.
Yeah.
And then the fallout of the bypass surgery, being off for several weeks of work, and then the COVID finally caught up to my work, and the work just fell out. So I had very little income for several months.
Yeah.
And so I've been trying to dig myself out of that hole, and I've finally gotten there. So yeah, I need to get the plane annualed, and then hopefully get back to flying again.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. It's been a rough year, man. Damn it.
I know, right? Yeah, it's been a weird one at best. And at worst, it's been a rough one.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, but yeah. It's always been my dream to own and fly an airplane. I have no goal to go beyond my private pilot and just fly my plane where I want to go when I want to go. So that's it.
Is it a tri-gear or is it a tail wheel?
Yeah. It's tricycle. It's the ugly one, not the pretty one.
Oh, whatever. They're both good looking. Look, it's a plane I don't have, so I'm a little jealous. No, that's awesome. I'm really happy for you. That's pretty cool, because I've been looking at planes and trying to find the steal of the century of my own.
So look at Pacers and Tri-Pacers, man.
I will.
They are the best value in general aviation, hands down.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. I've got to get something that I can transport my kids, because that's the goal, is to go visit family.
4-place airplane. It'll fly those little kids all day long.
Perfect. Awesome.
Yep.
All right. So why don't we get on to the next section? Joe, do you want to, we talked about doing a sim night this month, or not a sim night, or a build night. What were we talking about? I forgot. I didn't update this, but I know we were talking about November. Is it after Thanksgiving or before?
No, before. Because I'll still be out of town.
Okay.
On the 26th, which was one of the dates you proposed.
Yeah. 26th is right after Thanksgiving, and then the 19th was right before.
Right. So we're looking at the 19th, and I want to say you're looking at the 19th because while we want to get one, this will be going out Saturday the 13th. So, folks will kind of have this week to listen and hear and plan. Mm-hmm. But basically, the night of the 19th, go for it, 8 to 11. I will likely be coming back from being out of town that night.
Yep.
But it is sort of like the one opportunity this month. So
okay. Yeah, it's a busy month.
Yeah. If nothing else, if I'm not home yet, I'll slide in and hop in the channel while I'm on the drive home.
Oh, that'd be fun. Cool. Yeah, so if you guys didn't know what we try to do, I know, Mike, you kind of joined in on the beginnings of one of these. We try to do once a month. We just get the community of whoever wants to join us. I'm building all the time. Joe builds fairly frequently when he can. And then it's a good opportunity to connect with the listeners, and as well as just kind of share what you're building and talk RC and just shoot the snot and have a good time,
And not just
Yep.
listeners. We got guys that don't even listen. They show up to the build nights because
Yeah, because of Buildworry.
February.
Yeah,
I like
well,
it.
that's one of the challenges I do is Buildworry, and I'm like, dude, there's like 20 of us all building an absolutely god amount of planes. Let's just get together this Friday, and you're probably building like I am. If we're trying to beat this deadline, let's build together and we'll chat. And that's usually what we'll do. So some of that started based on those guys. And so when I have a challenge, I'll usually use these this Discord channel as a way to kind of get together on that stuff too.
Well, I think this Discord server originally started from your Buildjuary, and we just modified it and morphed it into.
I don't know.
I don't remember. It's been so long.
We started the podcast right as I kicked off at Buildjuary.
Okay.
And we were just setting up the Discord, and as a way to check it, I used it to do the other. So it was kind of an amorphous in between thing. All right. Anyway,
enough of about our podcast. The night of the 19th Friday, 8 to 11 p.m. Eastern time. I don't know if we're in standard time or daylight time at this point. So,
heck, if I don't know.
8 to 11
Yeah.
Eastern time.
Eastern Standard is what you guys are on now.
Okay, thank you.
Well, yeah.
There's so much.
Is it standard or is it? Why are we saying daylight in the winter? Why do we need to say daylight in the summer? There's a lot more daylight.
Well, I think they should leave it on daylight savings time all the time.
And just leave
I agree.
it.
That way, because I don't care if I get up in the morning and it's dark. Who cares? After I get off work, I want a couple hours of daylight.
Well, that's because you're a
And
regular worker.
that's-
You're not a farmer, mister.
Well, you know what? The farmers don't care what time it is. They get up when the sun comes up and they go to bed when the sun goes down. It doesn't matter what time it is.
It's arbitrary.
Yeah,
Get up
very
when you
much
wanna
so.
get up.
I didn't realize this was a hot button item. Nice.
No, not a hot button item. It's just, to
Oh, it
me,
is for
it's
me.
dumb now.
Okay,
It
so
is crazy.
episode 38. Next topic. How does
Daylight
daylight
savings-
savings time impact the hobby? Got it.
Bad idea or big mistake.
Right. I mean, this is
So-
officially when we start saying it's now officially build season, right? And because it's
Yes.
nobody has time after work.
Yep.
Oh, that explains. Okay,
Yeah. It's like rabbit season or duck season. Yeah.
that makes a lot of sense. Okay, so again, night of the 19th, 8 to 11. Hop into Discord. You can find a link to join the Discord server in the show notes of this episode. Hop in, enjoy. You can build, or we've started doing the simming, so we got a couple guys that maybe be doing sim night that night. So feel free. And ultimately, we're just hanging out and having a good time.
Yep.
Moving into our next bit, I want to briefly talk about our plane of the week, and then Matthew, it'll be full speed for you to talk to Pat and Mike here.
Absolutely.
So plane of the week, finally, I'll be doing one. I thank you for picking up slack on the last two episodes. I'm going to be talking about the P-38, the Lightning, and while I wanted to have a little more information than I've got, we're going to go with what I got so far. P-38 was made by Lockheed. I do not know what this acronym stands for, so if anybody happens to know,
okay.
if you guys let me know. The USAAC. Ring a bell for anybody?
United States Army Air Corps.
Okay. Excellent. So that acronym is going to come back up in a minute. It was introduced in 1941, retired in 1949. It was a fighter bomber, and aerial reconnaissance plane. The USAAC comes up because it was the Lightning was designed to meet the USAAC requirements at the time, which was to have a maximum airspeed of at least 360 miles an hour at 20,000 feet, to be able to climb to 20,000 feet within 6 minutes, and once up there, to be able to sustain full power for at least an hour.
That's a beast.
Yeah. That was the toughest requirements that the USAAC had put out up to that point.
I'm assuming that that's basically to go take off from Britain, get out far enough away and intercept with enough room to spare to be able to do some dogfighting, take them out.
No, I don't think it was for Britain. I think it was for our own defense.
It's all about escorting bombers.
Oh, okay. What's escorting
or defending against? Yep.
Right.
Strategic bombing campaign.
Nice.
Mm-hmm.
It just seems like quite an intercepting kind of go up quick, get out there, and then do stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
All right, go ahead.
Now, I'm trying to remember from when I was doing the research on this prior to the last episode, because I don't have them in my notes now. There was a reason they went for the twin engine design, and I think it had to do with kind of working around some of the requirements to get the horsepower to do what they wanted to do, while also having, say, the speed, or it was a weight thing. There were reasons that it was a twin engine vehicle, and they wanted the twin engine for a twin engine fighter as part of that design. Excuse me. So with it being a twin engine, it was not just the two engines stuck out on the boom. This was a twin engine with two tail booms, and then the central fuselage that stuck out to the front, which kind of gave it an iconic appearance, but ultimately resulted in some issues. Specifically flying at high speed, which you would normally achieve the speed when they were in dives. Dives approaching Mach 0.68, which I'd have to run it through a calculator. Yep, and Pat's over there indicating a nose tuck. When they approached Mach 0.68, they started encountering high speed compressibility problems, which they initially thought was tail flutter because the tail booms would shake real bad. And this would happen during dives. The tail would shake, and the nose would tuck under, further steepening the dive and locking the plane into it. Because at this point, what they ultimately found out was happening was the airflow pressure, the center of pressure around the airfoils was shifting back towards the wings. And so they were losing airflow over the control surfaces, where they were losing lift on the wings. So they were not able to, the wings really weren't generating the same kind of lift, and so the nose tucked under, they couldn't recover from that. They eventually found out what the issue was after they had to complete the first initial order of these planes. They had to pump those out, and then they were able to slow down and kind of the engineers get in there and figure out what was going on. They determined that's what the issue was. It was the airflow, the center of pressure shifting. And so from that point forward, they designed the planes with dive flaps that would extend down 35 degrees in about a second and a half. And I thought, Matthew, you and I were talking originally a couple weeks ago about this. I thought they were essentially speed brakes to slow the aircraft down so they could then regain, the control surface could regain some control. What it actually was by extending the flaps down like that. And these had to be very strong flaps to be able to sustain that pressure. So that's specifically
that's at 520 miles an hour. That's the 0.68 Mach is 520 miles an hour.
I got 504.
Okay.
Nice. Yeah. So this thing's booking, and you're trying to deploy these flaps. These flaps were not to slow the plane down. They were to alter the airflow over the wings so that the wings could then regain lift, so that the plane could...
You increase the camber, so you increase the lift with the flaps.
Right. And then the plane could then... The pilot could regain control and start to pull itself out. The other alternative prior to the flaps coming out, or prior to the flaps being designed into the plane, was either an ejection, to get the pilot out of the plane so he could survive, or the pilot would have to ride the plane down until they hit lower atmosphere where the air thickened up and they could maybe get enough of that denser air across the airfoils to try to pull out of it.
Yeah.
Get a little bit more control from the density.
Scary.
Yeah. Terrifying, I bet. I can't even imagine trying to eject out at 500 miles an hour. Period.
Well, the good news is you don't have a vertical stab back there in the way.
That's true.
Yeah, but you can hit the horizontal one.
Yeah, well, that's why they got rockets under your seats when you eject.
Yeah, it's still awful.
Did you ever read that book, Shattered Bone?
No, man, not yet.
Well, there was a scene in there involving it. So, going back to armaments were a little different on this plane than, say, the Spitfire and the Mustangs and some of the others, because those planes, most planes at the time would have the weapons mounted out on the wings, and that was so that they could have multiple weapons mounted out there. And yes, Matthew's making a cross symbol in front of him. That dealt with weapon convergence, and so these weapons were aimed in such a way that they had a distance of accuracy where they were dead accurate. The bullets crossed, and that's where the planes tried to set their distance when they were dogfighting, so that they were the most accurate and they had the most bullets hitting at a time. The Lightning, all the guns were in the nose of the fuselage in front of the pilot. Because there was no engine there, they were out to the side, so they could have all their weapons right there in the nose, all firing straight forward in a tight cluster. So there was no convergence factor, which both shortened and lengthened the effective combat range of the Lightning. It could really fight at any range from another plane, as long as it could hit. You gotta take into account lead times and such. Now, this is where I'm going to be pulling largely from memory, so I won't have all the details. While we know the Lightning to be iconic, and people see, they'll see the Lightning and they're like, "Oh yeah, great player, great plane, great bird." It was mostly successful in the Pacific. It did not fare that well in the European front, or even I think in the Australian front. Although I'm not sure about why necessarily. Well, Australia's over in the Pacific, so I don't know. But especially over in the European front, it did not fare as well. And there was a couple factors to that. I think some of the German fighters, it was a 50-50 on whether they were saying easy kill or that's a bird to be respected. But in the European zones, when they were up at altitude doing bomber escorts, it was very cold. They did not have the benefit of the motor being mounted directly in front of them to heat the cockpit. And while they had put in heat ducts from the engines to blow warm air from the engines into the cockpit for the pilots, they were not getting enough. And so it was not uncommon for pilots mid-flight to not be able to feel what they were doing, to not have any feeling. They'd land and they would have to be helped out of the craft because they couldn't feel anything. They didn't have the strength. And a lot of them would have some degree of hypothermia setting in because of the extreme temperatures. They just weren't getting any heat, like the Spitfires and the Mustangs were. But go 180 degrees around the world over in the Pacific, and the temperature's different. It's tropical, so it served really well in that theater. And actually, over there, pilots were flying essentially in shorts, tank tops, and their parachute, because it was just so hot inside the cockpit. They were fighting the opposite issue. But over there, it was performing very well. So
interesting, nice.
Yeah. So what? So the Lightning has the notoriety of having. Well, Richard Bong was a pilot who flew the Lightning, and he is the ace with the highest kills in World War II, I believe.
That sounds familiar. Yeah.
I'm not sure. I'm not sure if he's in the Eastern or in the Pacific theater, but it also had the distinction of shooting down Admiral Yamamoto, who was the mastermind behind Pearl Harbor.
I remember that, and there was the article I was reading at the time made a deal about that, because he was such a high priority target. The idea being, if they could take him down, take him out, then it would massively demoralize the Japanese forces. And I don't recall, I think they flew low level across the ocean surface en route to their target.
They knew the Japanese code, so they had broken the Japanese code early in the war, I believe. So there was no secret to where this guy was going and when he was going there. And they went and plucked him right out of the air.
Nice.
And you could, if you go to wherever his plane crashed, you can still go there. The wreckage is still there.
Oh, wow.
Really?
Yep.
I suppose it's a monument, right? I mean, at least because I
I
imagine he's a war hero to them.
Well, he was at one time, but I don't know that he's celebrated anymore. It's just kind of like the Confederacy today.
Yeah.
But I think I think it's just in the middle of the jungle.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, guys, feel free to go look up anything more on the lightning. There's a big Wikipedia page on it, and there's military history sites and such that'll have a lot of information. One last tidbit. There was over 10,000 of these produced.
Okay.
And they were the only U.S. combat aircraft to be in continuous production throughout America's participation in World War II.
Nice.
So these things were being produced pretty much from the beginning all the way up through the end. And if you go and look up more information on them, I recall in my initial reading that there was some hurt feelings with some of our European allies regarding this plane. Because of suboptimal engines that were being put in them when we were sending them their versions of this plane. And so there was originally big orders made of 100, 200, 300 of these planes by I think like France and one other. And when they got like the first one or two, they realized we were putting less powerful engines in them than we were putting in ours. And so there was some real hurt feelings about that. And ultimately, all those orders got canceled, which ended up working out because, again, they didn't perform extremely well in the European front, even ours. So.
That's interesting. There was a lot of that going on. Like the Mustang wasn't much of anything until was it the British that put the Merlin engine in it. Then it was a real fighter. But then we had like the Air Cobra, and our pilots hated the Air Cobra, but like the Soviet pilots loved that airplane, and they just tore it up with that airplane. It's weird, how a different country perceives a certain airplane.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's just the training that they get is best suited to that, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yeah. Well, and their mentalities and how they approach combat. If you want to be a more rough and tumble brawler, then that's got a configuration versus shooting from a distance versus dive bombing and doing your stuff from there. So.
Yeah,
I can see it. Absolutely.
Well, cool. I know what we'll probably do is put a link to if there's some plans like FT plans, some balsa plans. We'll probably throw a link if you want to build yourself a P-38. There are certainly ways to do so. I love the way if just pulling it up on the sim. It's the first plane I went, oh, I need to build one of these. And of course I haven't, but I need to build this. This flies so nice. It just flies so good on the sim. So I've got to get myself one built one of these days here. I've got a kit for sure. But we'll put links in there if you want to build one yourself.
Pretty airplane too.
Yeah.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
It really is.
Interesting segment, guys. That is really cool. I like you doing what you did right there.
I like that a lot. That's cool.
Yeah, one of the things, what it came down to is every time I would do a build on the forums, I'd, look up the plane, and then I look up the 3-view, and I'd start building plans and stuff. But one of the was a Rocky Boy, when he did his World War II challenge, one of the things in the challenge was read the history. Just give us a blurb about the history. Look up some information about the plane you're about to design and build. Okay, because it was all the experimental, the one-offs, the ones that didn't really quite see combat. And I was like, that challenge was right up my alley anyway. But I found it immensely more interesting to fly these planes when I knew something about them. So In that vein, that's kind of why we started this segment. I'm sure not that we'll ever run out of topics because there's almost like an infinite amount of planes. But I know we'll probably mix in here some other things. I think we're thinking about adding maybe iconic pilots or something else, some maybe armaments, things like that. So,
can I add something to that?
Yeah, please.
Absolutely.
When it's not about the P-38, it's actually about the F4U Corsair.
Okay, go ahead.
When I bought one from, oh my God, you ready for this? Banana Hobby.
Okay.
One of the giant ones. It was a big one.
Yeah.
And I took it up to my field, my local, where I've been flying for years, and went to take off, and it immediately rolled to the left.
Oh.
And one of the old guys at my club said, "Do me a favor, put that back in your van and take it home and get on YouTube and watch the training video for the F4U Corsair." So from the early, or mid 40s, they actually now have on YouTube, and I'd have to go find the link. I don't know where it's at. But, They actually have a short training video on it. And they had to dial 5 degrees of right rudder into this airplane. They couldn't see around that big giant engine in the front. So they had to dial right rudder into it and right aileron into it when they took off, because if they didn't, it would do the same thing in real life.
Was that some sort of engine torque?
It was probably prop. That big 4-bladed.
Yeah,
prop.
It's a big 4-bladed prop. And, of course, when I started flying it, I took the 4 blades off and only left 2 on it, and it flew fantastic after that. But I still had to program my old DX6 with right rudder and right trim in it to get it to take off, or it would roll left every time.
All right, now just for clarification on the right trim, and this is getting a little off, but sure, right rudder, but with the right aileron, were you straight up both ailerons were getting that right trim, or were you just in the right aileron giving it some down, like you went in individually on that?
Both
ailerons getting the trim.
Yep.
I was wondering.
Yeah, I didn't even dial in 5% on the ailerons. It was only just a little, but it had to have 5 degrees of right rudder. And guaranteed. I watched that video, and I immediately sat down with my DX6, put it in there, and because it had flaps, gear, and everything. So I was trying to figure out, how am I going to do this? Well, thankfully, on the knob, I was able to do that, and that's how I did it. And once I took off, I immediately had to reach up and turn that knob back down once it got in the air before I could do anything else, or it would roll to the right, and then you'd be done that way.
Why? Okay, so it was more like a takeoff situation, and then you
I think it was a P factor.
It's a P factor. So because the propeller's tilted, one of them creates more lift than the other, and it's a precessional effect, which is a 90 degrees to the actual direction of the force, which means it's going to turn to the left because the propellers are at an angle. And
it's a gyroscopic thing.
Thank you, gyroscopic precession. So what that means is then once it became level and was flying, that is gone now, because now the propellers are creating an even amount of force and there's no precession. So once it's up off the ground, it's good. But until that point, and it's tilted going forward, it's creating a left rotational force. Actually, a torquing effect is effectively what it's doing.
Huh.
Yeah. And I still have that airplane, and it can still fly.
Nice. Nice. That was probably the best advice you got from somebody that you might have listened to.
Yeah.
I got to give it every day.
I got to give it to him. His name was Joe Tunnelson, and I missed that guy something terrible. He passed away about a year and a half ago, COPD.
Yeah, I'm so very sorry. I know that is one of the things that's been plaguing this hobby for sure. A lot of the guys who know everything, they're all like, they're not making it. It's like, no, you need to stick around.
Yeah. He was a pylon racer, and you'd see him take his ugly stick out,
Oh,
and he'd fly around, because that plane flies amazing.
yeah, that's what I
But
heard.
he had the Hanger 9 ugly stick, and he would fly it around, and then you'd see him start walking out to the runway, and he would start flying low and fast, and he would just loop around, and you could see him going back to the days. I'm talking like the 60s, 70s, when they were still flying FM radio and all that, and you could see him go back to those days and start flying that, that pylon style of flying. And oh my God, he was such a good pilot.
Where he's almost
Miss that
flying vertically.
all the time,
The whole
almost. Yep.
Nice.
So anyway, sorry about getting off on that little tangent,
No,
but that was,
No, that's great, man.
to me, that's something that I think your listeners might get into, is going out and seeing if they can find some of the old videos, because there are videos out there on training on the P-51, the F-4U Corsair, all these different airplanes you can go out and see. And if you're having problems in the RC world, if it's a fairly accurate model, they usually behave the same way.
Yeah, that's great advice. It can't hurt to watch it. I mean, if you're doing the YouTube rabbit hole, might as well look.
Yeah.
Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Joe, very much for putting that together. That was a great segment. You pulled out a lot of really great info.
Cool, Joe. I really like that.
Yeah. Kudos, man.
Thank you. And Matthew's done his in the past. So we're just,
Yeah, really cool. I like that.
well, thank
That
you.
just gives me more reason to go back and listen to all the previous episodes.
Yeah, so if you're just tuning in to listen to the Flite Test Community Cast, go back and listen to the early episodes. You'll hear all sorts of great
Oof,
information.
don't go too far back. Those early ones were,
Come on,
rough.
Motors is one of our best episodes, according to how many people are listening to that one.
I wake up in cold sweat over some of those. All right.
Anyway, all right, so let
have
us
guests.
let us now go and to continue to talk to our guests. We've been talking to Pat and Mike here before we even started for a while, but now let us introduce you to our listeners. Actually, I want to have our listeners introduce themselves, or our guests listen. I'll say it eventually, right? I'll have our guests introduce themselves to our listeners here, to you guys. These are the two members of the Flite Test Community Cast. They originally had a third, which we'll talk about in a minute. And I know, again, it's another brother from another mother, I'm certain.
Yep.
I've listened to these guys for a long time. When I started getting into the hobby, they were one of the people that kept me into the hobby. I promise you that, because without some of the stories and some of the nonsense that you were saying about how you were handling things, I was like, okay, I'm not alone. Like, this isn't an abnormal thing. I shouldn't just quit, because it still is fun, even though, And I want to thank you personally for putting that together and keeping it going for so long. I know you guys initially haven't stopped it, but without what you guys put together, I don't know that I would be doing this podcast today. So I tip my hat off to you, and a big bit of thanks. I would like to introduce Mike Finley and Patrick Murphy, and I would love for you guys to give me about a 10-second intro. You can do it together over top of each other if you really want, but maybe one at a time. Mike, what do you got? A 10-second intro on yourself.
Okay. My name's Mike Finley. I'm still the magic one on the FT forums. I haven't been there forever. But that's what they call me. And I'm just a normal everyday guy that loves flight test.
Awesome. Well, welcome to our podcast. Pat, what about you? Give us a 10-second intro on you.
Hi, I'm Patrick Murphy, Earth Sci Teach on the forums. I've been around for a long time. I've been trying to be more active lately, and I'm pretty much an idiot when it comes to everything.
Oh, no way, man. You've forgotten probably more than most people know. Okay. So how about, why don't we start with the origin story? Why don't we talk about how did each of you individually find the hobby? What was your first airplane? What was your first experience? What got you in?
You first.
Okay. I actually got in because, as we were talking earlier about, flying like a bird. I've always looked at airplanes. I've seen them. I love them. I mean, again, I'm an old man now, and I hear an airplane. First thing I do is look straight up.
Same here.
Where is it? What is it? I even have, flight tracker, 24-hour radar on my phone, and I'll actually look to see what plane it is, where it's going, where it came from. I mean, I'm just crazy with that. And so, yeah, I mean, flight has always been a dream. And, I never had I never had the time to go to try to be a full-scale pilot. And I knew how expensive it was, and I talked myself out of doing it early on in my life, and thought the same thing about RC, and didn't find Flite Test until after I bought the first 2 planes I owned. The first one was just a little, and I'm talking real styrofoam, not the foam like we have now, but we're talking like old
molded
Miller
foam.
Cooler styrofoam.
Yeah,
airplane.
polystyrene, expanded polystyrene.
Yeah, it was styrene. That's exactly it, is polystyrene, and
You rub it and it falls apart.
yeah, well, that's the plane before the show we talked a little bit about. I put it together. Of course, it was pretty easy. It was throw a couple of wings and a fuselage. It already had the motor and everything in it because it was a brushed motor.
Yeah.
A little 2-channel job, and I took off from, because I didn't know any better. I took off from our football field at our high school and watched it. And of course, I didn't check my control surfaces. Well, none of them worked. I watched it fly out, and I saw it heading towards a telephone pole, and I couldn't do anything other than watch. And it flew, I don't know, 20, 30 seconds until it hit that pole and exploded like a Corvette would if you hit it with a hammer.
Oh, man.
And that was a long time ago, and that was $200 gone. And I was a pretty young man then. $200 was a lot of money back in those days. And
That's a lot of money now.
I was like, okay,
Yeah.
I'm done with a hobby, So then my second airplane actually was a P-51 Mustang, which was the Ultra Micro from Park Zone.
Oh, okay. The UMX
And-
brand, right?
Yeah, the little UMX Park Zone Ultra Micro P-51 Mustang. It was only maybe an 11, 12-inch wingspan airplane.
Yeah.
But it was a brushless motor, little, I don't know, might have been a 200 milliamp single cell battery, whatever. I don't even remember. I actually still have that plane downstairs. But,
honestly, they did a really good job putting together a fairly solid system in general for the size.
They did. That's the plane I learned to fly on.
Nice.
In my parking lot of my work. Like, oh my God, I guess it's been almost 12 years now.
Wow.
11 maybe, 11 or 12, something like that.
About
And
2010, yeah.
by the time that I had learned to fly that thing well enough to keep it in the air through a full battery, it was more tape than foam. And it wasn't good packing tape either. I'm talking like Scotch 810, terrible, magic tape. But
Hey, whatever gets the job
still,
done, man.
it still flew, and that got me into my Park Zone T28, and that thing, I still have it.
Is that a balsa model or is that a foam?
No, it's a foam model as well.
Okay.
And I started flying it, and I flew it at the parking lot at my work, out in front of my work in a big field that I didn't realize was as close to the downtown Kansas City airport as it was. And I should not have been flying there, but nobody ever said anything.
Now that
and
you're not as ignorant, you won't do it again, but
I will never do that again.
No. who are you like watching planes skip over top of yours?
Oh my gosh. I was a mile and a half
Yeah.
Ooh.
from the airport, and
Wow.
where this building was direct flight path.
Yeah.
And I mean, oh my gosh.
Yeah. I know the feeling. I built a mini Explorer because I had a bunch of F packs, but I didn't have a C pack. So I built a small version of it, right? And I went out to the local park down the street from my work, which is on the direct flight path of the local airport. But I mean, it's a park. I never broke the trees or anything like that. It was, you know, I was just checking it out. But I mean, if I knew then what I know now, I wouldn't have done it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the thing. Even with that T-28, I never flew it above probably 100 feet.
Yeah.
I mean, I doubt I ever got that high. I was probably most of the time between 50 and 75 feet.
Yeah.
And I flew the dickens out of that airplane, broke the nose off, and that's when the landing gear all come off. And I 15-minute epoxied it back together, and it flew better after that than it did previous to that. And it still flies to this day.
Oh,
and it is still
you
one
got
of
to
my
break them in.
favorite
Sometimes
they
they fly better that way.
Emphasis on the word break.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, I broke it all the way off.
You know, it gets rid of inhibitions. That's all.
It really did. And, well, I was flying inverted and dumb-thumbed it and pulled up. And, yeah, that's not the right thing to do when you're flying inverted. Don't pull up.
Up's expensive.
Yeah.
Up is, well, thankfully it wasn't. It was 2 bottles, you know, a bottle of A and B, 15-minute epoxy, and 30 minutes of time.
Yeah, right. Oh, my God. Nice.
But that's how I got into it, and then I found Flite Test after that, and then it's just been a roller coaster ride ever since.
We'll come back to that in a minute. Pat, what about you?
I started flying, I think it was just about, it probably 10 and a half years ago. I think it was probably in the spring of 2011. I started, I've always been fascinated with airplanes and flight as long as I can remember. And I built little rubber powered balsa models when I was, like middle school, high school. And then I took flying lessons when I was in high school. Like I said, or I soloed on my 16th birthday, and then had no money from there on out, and then made the mistake of going to college and getting married and having a family. That really interferes with flying quite a bit.
And fun.
So I don't know. It just hit me, 10 years ago. Like, I'd really like to give this RC thing another shot. I had started building a Goldberg Electra back when I was in high school in like the 80s, and never finished that. When I was in college, I bought, I don't know if you guys remember these, the U.S. Air Corps. They were the first swappables.
Oh, yeah.
Yep. They were the Plasticor or the Coroplast.
Right.
Coroplast airplanes, and they had a wooden tray that would slide in, and the engine would sit on that, and the fuel tank and all that. I started building one of those when I was in college, and it's sitting over my right shoulder.
Okay.
The folks at home can't see this, but you can see that yellow up there.
Yeah.
That's it. Yeah, it's still not done. Hang on, I'll grab it. Sorry, folks.
It's still not done. Well, you're making me feel better about myself there, Pat. I appreciate it.
That is Pat's thing. He will start a project and squirrel, and he's off to another one.
Well, welcome to the hobby, Mike.
I am the king of not finishing projects. I have a 101-inch wingspan B-25 over my left shoulder hanging up here, fuselage, that I started, according to Facebook, a couple of days ago, 7 years ago.
I know, right? Isn't it worse when you look at those? You're like, oh my God, that feels like it was last week.
Oh, it's so shameful. And I don't know how it happens, but I keep getting more airplanes and more kits, and they just distract me from what I was doing before.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. They just show up. I don't know where they come from. They're just in my house all of a sudden, and then I'm distracted. What am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Put them in a pile and come back to them later.
Oh, dude, if I was to pan this camera around right now, you'd see piles.
We'll talk later. You and me. See, we're the same.
It's, yeah. So my first real RC airplane that I flew was the Hobby Zone LP Super Cub, which this day I am so in love with.
Interesting.
I was able to teach myself to fly on that airplane without significantly crashing it. I mean, like the first flight was successful. It took off, I flew it around, and I landed it.
Nice.
Because that airplane will fly itself. And I think that's one of the things that people get themselves in trouble with is you can't be too much of a control freak with an airplane. An airplane will do what an airplane does.
Right.
If you just give it the chance, it'll fly if it's trimmed and balanced properly. So you have to have a little patience there. But a lot of people, you know, they try to over control, and that's where they get into trouble.
I think somebody described it to me as you were not flying the airplane; you were gently correcting its direction.
Exactly, that's it. If it's balanced properly and trimmed properly, it will fly itself.
So are you a proponent of, and I imagine so, but are you a proponent of Expo in your controls?
I rarely program in Expo.
I am.
I do. It depends on, okay. So if it's like a little 750, 800 millimeter foamy warbird, yeah, you got to program at Expo because those things are twitchy as heck. But if it's something like an FT Storch or like the Hobby Zone Super Cub or like what the heck's that thing? Sorry,
high wing trainer. I'm assuming like a high wing trainer, basically.
Yeah, or like the Strix Strato Surfer. You know, those surfer type platforms. I don't think you need it. You know, the larger the plane, the more docile it's going to be. So when you start getting down into the small planes, I don't care what they are, they're more difficult to fly. So that's when Expo really starts to have a purpose.
Okay.
Yeah, and you talk about the larger the plane, the more docile they fly. And I think some of that is the size, but also the mass. And the mass at the distances that it's at. Yeah, I largely bring that up because y'all may have had the conversation when y'all had him on years and years ago, but when we were talking with Red, one of the corrections or one of the things that fixed, I think part of the Prandtl D-wing situation was actually to put some weight out near the wingtips because it helped reduce the amount of just instant wanting to, snap roll.
The inertia, you know, these larger planes have more inertia, so it takes more force to get them moving. So it takes more stick movement to get the controls to move as far as they need to go to get them moving. Whereas, you know, a little 800 millimeter foamy warbird, you just tap that aileron and she's spinning like crazy.
Yeah.
You know, it's just there's no mass there. The inertia, there's no inertia. So that thing just, they're a nightmare, you know, compared to a larger airplane.
Yeah. Hey, do you guys remember what it felt like when you, I guess, the hobby first grabbed hold of you?
Oh, yeah.
That
I
moment.
remember it really well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I don't know that there was a specific moment, but when I think, well, I take that back. Yes, there was. It was when I successfully took off and successfully landed.
Okay.
When I did that, that was like, oh my God, I can do this.
Was that your definition of success in the hobby?
Absolutely.
Okay. What about you,
Just
Pat?
being able to take off and land.
Okay. Because Joe and I have had this conversation, and I'm very curious because I remember it being a very different thing depending on who you talk to. Go ahead, Pat.
I don't think it really grabbed me until I got to the point with my Hobby Zone Super Cub where I was comfortable enough with it that I decided, okay, I'm going to put a brushless motor in it. I'm going to make it 4-channel. And that's when I realized that could successfully modify. Whoa, hang on, my table's about to collapse.
Okay.
Not
Go ahead and
joking.
fix that if you need to.
Yeah, but I've got it under control for the second. But I'll just finish my thought here.
Okay.
Once I modified that plane, I took the wing, I cut the middle part out of it that had dihedral. I ordered it was like a 3/8 inch diameter carbon fiber rod that I put the two halves of the wings back together.
Yeah.
I still have it. I could probably stand on that thing. It is so strong. So I think it was a 450 suppo motor from Heads Up Hobby. I don't know if you guys ever dealt with. They were the best online hobby shop there ever was, but the guy who ran it retired, sadly.
Yeah.
But anyway, 450 motor, flapperons, painted up like a grasshopper, and it was just pure fun. And that airplane, I did so many ridiculous things to it. I still have the bits and pieces laying around. I mean, it died a horrible death many times.
I remember that airplane.
But it finally was, you just can't put enough glue on it. It's just all glue. But I can't bring myself to throw away the scraps of that airplane because I loved it so much. And realizing that I could take something like this and make it something else, that's when it really grabbed me. And I just went down the rabbit hole so fast and deep. It was absurd.
Nice.
Yeah.
I get it. That makes sense.
My leg on my table right now.
Yeah, please.
This is like an 8-foot long table. This is boring.
Yeah, go ahead and get that right.
Yeah,
We'll wait for you.
Yeah, we can pause. It's fine.
4 minutes later.
I got my leg back in positions. We're good.
Well, how'd you guys meet, and how did you decide that you should start a podcast?
Well, Pat and I met briefly just online in the forums.
Yep.
And all that. And then Flite Fest 2014 is when we met in real life. And we didn't hang out a lot there. We did, but not as much as after I left that I was like, man, I missed an opportunity to hang out with a bunch of people.
I still remember the moment I met you. It's as clear as day in my brain. Because you're just like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, well, my voice is big for a small guy, and it carries and all that. But I mean, I don't know. It was Pat. It was I think, did Asbjorn show up that year?
I think yeah.
Yeah,
I think Asbjorn was there the first year. Of course, Dan Cruz and Ryan Papp and Eddie. See, I actually camped next to Eddie and Wendy the first year, and I probably hung out with them more than I did anybody.
Yeah, it's Eddie Black.
Eddie Black and,
right.
and his significant other, Wendy.
Right there.
Yeah. Oh, he's a great dude.
Yeah, we got to really meet him this last Flite Fest. We were, doing volunteer and really got to meet him a little bit.
But after we left 2014, then Pat and I started talking a little bit more. And then we met up again at 2015, and it was like we were brothers. I mean, immediately. I mean, just that quick. Yeah. It was like, oh my God, this guy was cut from the same cloth as me for the most part. I mean, we have a few differences, but I mean, honestly, I think we grew up very similarly. Did you guys lose me?
A little bit. You were cutting in and out, at least as far as the audio for us is concerned. You probably picked it up in the actual audio.
Okay. But we started hanging out, and we have been as close as anybody since. And we haven't talked a lot in the last year, but only because we haven't seen each other.
Yeah.
And you know how that goes. I mean, when you're not right there, but I can pick up a phone and call Pat, and it's like we talked yesterday.
Yeah,
I mean, it's
absolutely. And we have not talked for any specific reason.
yeah, just
Yeah.
We both a life, man.
Yeah.
Mike's busy. Mike is so freaking busy in his job. It's not even funny.
Yeah.
And I've been dealing with my stuff, and it's been a rough year.
Yeah.
It really sucked not having you at Flite Fest last summer.
Yep.
Yeah.
You better get there this summer. I'll drag you out here.
Well,
I'm coming. It does not matter. I will be there.
I know one of the things that Joe and I keep throwing around is I think we're going to start, we're going to plan things out a little bit better than we did this past year. This past year, we just kind of showed up and so let people know about a week beforehand, hey, we're actually doing it. If you're there, maybe we'll see you, and that's, but I'm hoping that, this coming year, those who show up and that we all get to meet each other up and just like, hey, at this time on this date, we're all going to go meet at the stands, bring a plane or not. But let's go have some fun as a community.
I bet you in all the Flite Fests that I've been to, and I've missed what now? 2? No,
Yeah.
I missed 3.
Have
I only
you?
missed 2. I've only missed 2.
Two.
I've only missed 2.
I've been to some of the ones. I
And-
always missed you. You were always at the other end, and I was like, "Oh man, I know if I just walk down there, I'd probably hear his voice and find him. Say, hey, thanks."
Well, and I want to thank you too for giving me those kudos, but all the kudos should actually go to Big Mike, who's no longer with us, from the Crash Cast.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Big
Yeah.
Mike was. He really
If it-
did kind of start the whole. I don't know if he started it all, but he definitely created quite a presence. He was.
Well, not only did he create a presence, but he was our mentor.
Was he?
Yes, absolutely. He helped us get it started.
Awesome.
And
But I'm so grateful that I got to meet him
yes,
Yeah.
before he passed.
yeah, Michael Crash Hancock
Yeah.
will be a brother forever. I only got to meet him in person once at Flite Fest the last year that he was alive.
As I understand, he was a
And-
big man. He was
Very
an
large man.
amazingly kind, the most kind and loving kind of person. You just meet him and you're like, okay, he's my friend. Like immediately.
Oh,
He knew no enemies.
unbelievable.
And I think I found his podcast after he had passed because they kept it up for a couple of years, I think. And
Yep.
I was like, whoa, I gotta listen to this. And I'm like, man, this is all stuff I wish I knew 3 years ago when I started this darn stuff.
Yeah,
Man,
Mike Hancock
it's great. It's good to listen to.
was an unbelievable individual, and I can never thank him enough. And he is sorely missed in the RC community.
So
He's the OG.
go ahead.
He's the OG.
Yeah.
Yeah. So did he basically kind of give you pointers on what he was doing and how you guys could get started and make it work and be what you want it to be?
Yeah, well, I mean, he gave us mostly pointers on recording and how to, because they didn't always record in the same room either. So he, kind of helped us because, of course, Pat's in Pennsylvania.
Mm-hmm.
Joel Cannon at the time was in Florida.
Yeah.
And I'm in the Kansas City, Missouri, Kansas
Yeah.
area.
Very different
So-
spots in the world.
We were all over the place, and he helped guide us through not only how to get us three to talk, but to have other people come in, how to record, how to edit. I mean, all those things, and I can never thank the guy enough for doing that for us.
So then if you're listening and you heard our last episode, add Crashcast to that.
The Crash Cast, yes.
If it's still up and you can listen to it, I think it is. That's the one I
believe it
couldn't
is,
remember because it's like not showing up on my. I had to redo the podcast aggregator. And I tried to remember all the ones I forgot, and that was one I wanted to get back. So yeah, add that to the list because I forgot. It's a worthwhile
There's
listen.
up there on Apple.
Okay.
Yeah,
iTunes
they
and
were a
such.
Good.
great bunch to listen to.
Awesome.
Just a great bunch to listen to.
Okay, so you guys got together. You had, I'll call it a mentor to kind of get you pointed in the right direction and get you going. So why did you choose the focus that you did? Because you guys have a very specific, I mean, as any podcast, right? Like you can't just say, we're going to do everything. Like, you kind of got to focus. No. So why did you guys choose the Flite Test Community? What was your goal?
Well, I'll answer that because it was my idea to get a podcast going to start with.
Okay.
And the reason, what I wanted to do is the Flite Test Community had already given me so much, not only in knowledge of flight and RC and all that, but it gave me something that I really didn't have in my personal life, which was friendship. I mean, yeah, I've got a couple of friends.
Yeah.
But I don't have a lot of people that I go hang out with. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm not that kind of, I mean, I shouldn't say I'm not that kind of guy because I'm probably one of the most outgoing people you'd ever meet in your life. But to hang out with people, I just don't have those real close friends. And this Flite Test Community gave me that. I mean, I've got friends, number one, that I would never have had.
Yeah, right.
God, that was hard to say. Never have had. and I wouldn't have as many friends that I truly care. I love these people.
Yeah.
I mean, the people, I love them. I'd take a bullet for Pat, for Josh Orchard, for all these guys. I mean, I would in a heartbeat and wouldn't even think about it. And I know they feel that way about me. At least I hope they do.
These guys are, we are truly a family, and that's how I get it. And I echo what Mike is saying is like, you get to a certain age and you don't have that many people that you hang out with,
Yeah. It's not one of those things like when you're teenagers and you just go, I'm going over to Mike's, and you just go and you disappear for a day and you come back and like, it doesn't work like that anymore. We all have too many things to do.
Exactly. Yep. And the cool thing about the Flite Test Community is we have people from all over the world that we feel this way about. And it's so inclusive and it's so welcoming and it's so it's just warm and loving. And it's still the Flite Test Community has given me some of the greatest things I've had in my life.
Yeah.
Yes.
And most of those are intangible, but I just, my life would not be nearly as rich as it is now without the people that I know from the Flite Test Community.
Yeah. Yeah. You can say that.
And the reason, and the reason why that I wanted to start it is because it had given me so much. I wanted to give something back. And I didn't know how to do it because, as Pat knows, I don't build very well as far as planes. I rarely build. I tend to buy,
we won't hold that against you much.
And that's okay. You know what? I'm good with it.
Yeah.
I would rather fly anyway.
Yeah.
He's full of crap. He just chooses not to.
No, I really don't. I don't like it because, I mean, I want to fly. I don't want to build. I want to fly, man. The building to me is a necessary evil.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, to me, laugh, Joe. To me, it's a necessary evil. The only way I can get in the air is to fly, is to build something.
You got to build something,
or I have to buy it.
Yeah. No, look, as someone who can spend 20 hours building a Spitfire and then immediately dumb thumb it, like, I got you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and that's why I don't. Thankfully, I've been working in the same industry for, soon be 42 years. I've made a good living, and I can go out and buy stuff. And if I dumb thumb it, guess what? I'll go out and buy another one.
Right. Yeah.
I'm lucky. I'm just lucky. That's all. And it's not, I'm not better than anybody else. I'm not a lucky guy.
Yeah. There's a certain luxury that comes with saying, well, I spend all my time at work. I don't have any time, but I do have some money now. So I gotta choose the other way, which is you either have no money and lots of time, or the other way around, and you just sort of juggle that as you go. We're laughing just because I was there when Joe.
I'm about to say, I think I broke Matthew just. So So real quick, the Spitfire build, I spent like, ooh,
Oh, sorry.
You okay?
you're good. Take a second, get your table right.
Yep. Carry on.
Will do.
We'll just mute your audio. So the story there was the Spitfire. I spent like 15 hours building at home before I even got it to Matt's place, and it was dumb because it should have taken that long. But I was just watching so much Star Trek while I was building. 15 hours, get up to Matt's place. Thought I was good to go. Was not. Still had another like 6 hours worth of electronics to do. And then we finally get out to the field. The sun's starting to go down. It's just, white foam board. Get it up in the air.
We're flying in the silhouette zone, where you
we're
can't tell
having a
coming or
good
going.
time. And Matthew hears me at some point. I'm working on bringing it in. And all of a sudden, he just hears me go, "Oh, crap, I'm inverted." Like, how did I get there?
Oh, so good.
And
Oh, my.
its maiden landing was cartwheeling. Wingtip to both blades of the prop to other wingtip. Just completely.
That's a
completely
head shake
broke
of shame. Like, I know that pain. I've been there.
Oh, I know that pain.
But the cool part is, and what I love about this, and what I love about what I'll call it, what Flite Test brought to this hobby, is we can laugh about this.
Well, yeah.
Absolutely. Because if it was left to me, I'd be so mad. I'd be so mad all the time. I'd be like, "This is stupid hobby," and I still get that way. But then I pause and go, "No, idiot, this is fun. If it's not fun, you're doing it wrong. Like, come on."
Every time I crash a plane, might be the last time.
Well, the biggest heartbreak I've had so far is I bought a 59-inch 3D Hobbies AJ Slick.
Oh, okay. Yeah, it's a nice fast one.
And it's a 3D airplane. I mean, a full 3D capable aircraft. And matter of fact, the motor's sitting right there. I actually got really good with it. I mean, I wasn't, like a Joe Smith, going out doing, Harrier rolls and all the way around.
Right.
And all that.
Nobody's calling you to do the noon show, but
Yeah, no, definitely not. But, I was getting pretty good at it.
Good.
And got up to the field one day. And this is when my buddy Joe, the old man at the field, was still alive. And I take off and I go do all this crazy stuff. And he's laughing about the roll rate of this thing, because I could do like, I'm going to say in 100 feet, I could probably do 250 rolls. Because, I mean, oh, my God, the control surfaces on it were as big as almost wider than the wings are.
Right.
I mean, they were incredible. And, of course, rates turned up all the way. And so I come down, and I've got a Harrier in a little, or not Harrier in, Harrier-ing. So I'm coming in mostly off the prop, and I thought, man, I'm going to bring it up about 10 feet and just hang it there.
yeah.
Because I finally got to where I could hover. So I brought it in. Man, I got it hovering, and suddenly I see the rudder hard left. I'm full right in it, and it's staying left.
Oh, no.
Huh.
And I thought, what in the world? Well, about that time, of course, it just completely flips a 180.
It's coming right for
and
you.
just it fence posts.
Oh, yeah.
Just
There.
broke it in half, bent the motor shaft. I mean, just toasted the airplane. And that's right. I think I still had my DX6 then.
Mm-hmm.
And I grabbed the radio really hard. And then I looked at it, shrugged my shoulders, and went, well, it was fun. Because I flew it for a year and a half.
Oh, wow.
So,
yeah.
I mean, it wasn't, so I had it for a while, but it was still, that was my favorite airplane to fly.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And Joe comes walking up to me, and he's a little taller than I am, and he puts his hand on my shoulder. And he goes, Mike, I'm proud of you. And I go, why? And he goes, because I'd have threw that radio all the way across the field. And he goes, I saw you start to, and you stopped. So I'm really proud of you because I would have threw that radio all the way across the field. But
Yeah.
And now my wife actually bought me a 51, and the only thing I got to do is put the pull rudder system in it, and I just haven't done that yet. It's been sitting in the basement for a year.
Okay. Well, I'm sure you'll get to it at some point. When the time is
Eventually,
right.
I will, because that plane, I'm telling you, those 3D Hobby Shop, which is now somebody else, I don't remember who, but that was the straightest, truest flying airplane I've ever flown in my life.
Awesome.
I mean, you point it and it went, and it didn't care.
Yeah.
It just went. Gorgeous.
Nice. Yeah, those are nice. When you get one, you're just like, I just threw it, and it's going exactly where wow.
Yeah.
I'm so used to having to do something.
Yeah. You're looking for some kind of trim, or I've got to adjust my COG a little bit, or I got to do something. And nope, I put this plane in the air, and I mean, it was perfect.
Nice.
It was, and what happened? Oh, by the way, what happened was apparently the Loctite on the rudder servo horn, apparently gave way, and I didn't check the nut to see if it was tight, and it rattled off.
Yep.
Oh man.
And that's because it was a pull rudder system, so one side was pulling, the other side wasn't, and it just, down it went.
Wow. Sucks.
And that hurt, because I spent a lot of money on that airplane.
Yep. It was expensive.
That was
and it was one of your favorites.
Cheap one. Yeah, that was a $700 airplane, and that one hurt. Yeah, it hurt.
Yeah, that'll hurt your feelings.
That one really hurt.
Oh well.
Yeah,
I'm Mike. I'm proud that you didn't throw the thing across the field. So good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, actually, the tail of that airplane's still sitting in our storage garage at the field.
Nice. Okay, as a testament.
Yep.
All right. Well, why don't we get back to a little bit more about what you guys were doing with the podcast, and then we'll talk a little bit more about maybe some of the guests and some of your memories of it, and then we'll go to a lightning round real quick, and I think that'll be it. So, did you guys have guidelines for your podcast? Like when you started, you said, "Okay, this is what we're not going to do." I heard you guys mention something about somebody offering you something to mention, I guess, or whatever.
Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah, our guideline was not to over prepare or prepare at all. We just wanted it to be conversational.
Okay.
Yeah, we wanted it to be very much like a fireside chat.
Yeah.
If that makes sense, just sitting around the campfire, shooting the breeze, talking about stories, or kind of like you guys, what'd you do last week, or whatever. And I originally wanted it to be bringing the community members to light that maybe wasn't getting recognition they deserved.
Yeah.
And
there's a lot
of
those. There's a bunch of those. Just like, wow, man, this guy is absolutely killing it.
And thankfully, a few of the members that we talked about that are dear friends are those guys. But then it turned into something completely different than what I originally planned for it to be. Because I did, I wanted to give back, and to me, giving back was to highlight those members of the community that really did good things.
Yeah. And
then it ended up being a lot of that. I won't say it wasn't that, but it was so much more. It was so much more than that.
Well, it got to the point where we didn't really have a lot to say ourselves. So we started bringing in guests, and it just kind of transformed into something a little bit different.
Oh, we'll call it probably more traditional style podcast, in the sense that you're bringing on a guest to talk to them about a thing. You guys talked about what you did a little bit, but mostly about, whatever that guest had.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because if we didn't have a guest, we generally didn't put out a podcast. It got to that point because we were like, we have to bring something to the listener to be able to engage them. And I know that, I won't say Pat's not engaging or Joel's not engaging.
Right. No,
I'm not.
You guys are that's no. You guys are all
That's
really
false.
no. You guys are all really engaging. But we do the same thing. I know Joe comes at me sometimes. He's like, man, I don't really do a whole lot yet. I'm still working on the same thing that I had last time. And I'm like,
you wanted to say something.
Yeah, we're just not that interesting on our own. We're just not.
At least I'm not. I think Pat and Joel are very interesting people. I never felt that I was. I think Pat feels like he's not interesting, and Joel felt like maybe he wasn't interested. I don't know, but it worked for us.
yeah.
I will say this though, I just totally package taped my table legs together.
I was wondering what
That's
you were
more
doing exactly, and I was like,
I saw that table moving an awful lot.
yeah.
No, it is completely upright now because of package tape.
Oh my god,
That is Flite Test ingenuity at its best.
Hell yeah, I'm not lying.
here's the flight test, right?
After we're done here.
That's awesome.
Thank God it was within my reach because I couldn't go anywhere.
No, I saw the table start to go, and I'm like, oh god, what's going on over there? Okay, well, I'm glad.
Well, that's why I was laughing and not when
Yeah.
when Joe was talking. I was like, oh my God, this is going to go down.
It was a serious situation.
Joe, thank you for holding it together while that was going on, because the rest of us were like, oh my
Yes.
god, it's going down.
Oh, see, now I thought you were laughing at my inability to build a Spitfire in
Oh,
a
no, no.
reasonable time frame.
There
I
was that
realized
too.
I'm not the comedic relief now.
Well, no, I'm not saying that's entirely
Not
wrong.
an earthquake. It was not an earthquake. It was just
No, I was
That has
also
always
remembering
been-
our first Spitfire experience, and that always brings me. That's always a good
Nah,
time.
it's fine. I didn't see his table starting to go because I was too busy watching you starting into the chuckle fits.
no. He was laughing. He was totally laughing about the Spitfire thing before the table started to go.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
then the
Thank you,
table
Pat.
started
I
to
feel
go.
better
And
now.
oh my god.
Appreciate you with the self-confidence boost there.
I'm not lying to you.
So how did you guys like choose topics or guests? I mean, did you have any? You said you didn't prepare anything, right? So was it just whatever? Did you like call up like 3 minutes before and say, you want to talk about this thing I did? Yeah, okay.
No, we would talk offline about who we would like to see or hear, or somebody that was interesting. We would originally we started in the forums,
Yeah.
and would find things that were really cool that somebody was doing in the forum, and then we would do our best to
Pass
get a
that
hold
out.
of them and ask them if they wanted to come on.
Yeah.
And of course, that's where, of course, we knew Dan Sponholes and Ben Harbor and Josh Orchard and all those guys,
Yeah.
and Josh Finn. And we did those and had those guys on multiple times because they were just so interesting.
Yeah.
And they did things so well that we had them back multiple times because we always thought it was good to do. And then, we didn't just do planes. We did quads. We did everything.
Yeah.
We had, oh my God, I just lost his name. VAS Aerial Systems.
Sean
Alex Grieve.
Alex Grieve.
Alex Greaves, yeah, that's right.
He was probably the easiest podcast we ever did. I love Alex. Alex has
I'd Be
got
Crazy,
opinions
right?
of his own.
Yeah.
I'd be crazy. Yep.
Yep.
We brought him on, introduced him, and sat back and just let him talk.
Yeah.
He never said anything.
No, it was perfect.
It was awesome. It was the easiest podcast ever.
He's he has I don't know if you've read A Stranger in a Strange Land, but he groks radio better than I've ever heard or seen anybody understand. But and that's why I say grok, because it's not just an understanding. It's like he breathes it, he sees it, he feels it. It's a thing that's just part of him that he doesn't understand why other people don't get it. And
Yeah. Oh, he's brilliant.
and his systems, obviously it shows, because if you want a video system, an aerial video system, like that's the one of the ones that get. I mean, you're not going to be
He's the
disappointed.
guy. His antennas are the best out there. Period. Bar none.
They are. And
That's what I
unfortunately, he's had to basically fight the BS of the industry, which is the cloning and the stealing and all that stuff. And sadly, it's made him a differently focused person.
He's a bitter guy.
Yeah. And
I love him to death, but he's bitter, and I understand it.
Yeah, me too. Like, I can't say I blame him. I just wish that wasn't happening because, he's awesome. I mean, he's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen the motorcycle he built?
No, I haven't followed him directly that much. So I'm not surprised.
Electric.
Okay. That thing must go to 0 to the moon in 2 seconds.
It doesn't take long. He almost threw himself off of it.
I bet.
On acceleration.
Don't you have to strap yourself in like one of those little Velcro straps that you wrap around the handle a couple times and then back to yourself? So your hands stay on?
He probably should have Velcroed his butt to the seat.
Well, you need some wheelie bars for that, man.
He's not a big guy either.
No.
But fantastic individual. And it was just, that was just one of the memories that I thought, probably the easiest podcast we ever did, because we just said, this is Alex Greaves from Visual Area Systems. He does all this stuff.
We just sat back from there.
And
we just went, man. It was great.
Watched him go.
Nice.
Oh, it was great.
I know at Flite Test a couple of years ago, I happened to run, he was selling stuff, and I happened to catch him in between this or that. And I just stopped and said, look, I want to thank you for your contribution to the hobby. You've brought it up a couple notches just by yourself. So thank you.
Yep.
This is one of those things. Anyway, so if you're a listener and you have not heard of them, go take a look. It's at worst, it's entertaining. At best, you'll learn a heck of a lot.
Yeah. That's very true. The guy is brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
He is the antenna guru. He's the man.
Like I said, he somehow eats, breathes, lives, feels, understands, and has the essence
radio
of
frequency, radio waves. He understands. Unbelievable.
It's great.
It's like the Matrix. You can see it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
He's starting to believe.
All right. So, okay, I've got a couple other questions here, but I think we should probably shift to let's go back down. I'll call it memory lane to a degree, and we're going to talk about, your favorite guest, your favorite episode to record, the hardest episode to record, that kind of thing. And I know there may be some overlap, but I know there'll be different distinctions, right? So what was your favorite episode to record? Like, which one did you have the most fun with?
I'll go. For me, it had to be the one with Red Jensen.
Solid choice.
Yeah. Because,
which one, the first one or the second one?
Well, he was only on one.
Yeah, but you went out and had an experience.
Oh, dude. That was incredible. Well, yeah, and that's part of it, I think. But no, just having this guy on and he's talking about what he's doing, and he's building a full scale airplane from scratch. He runs the scale model lab at NASA Armstrong. At one point in our podcast, he pulls out this little thing. It whips out, and it's a flying wing that will fly on Mars someday. It just unrolled like a one of those wrist slap bands.
Exactly.
Carbon fiber wing. It was amazing. And they were only like 4 or 6 inches. They wasn't very big.
No, they were small. Just they were supposed to be big enough just to hold a camera
and some kind of sensor, I think.
And that was it. And they just fly as far as they could until they hit the dirt.
Yeah, they said they were going to be like mass deployed in the nose.
Yeah.
The aerial cone nose of the spacecraft coming into Mars re-entry.
It's just so cool. By the way, thank you for having him on. I don't know how you met him or whatever, but I was literally looking at the Prandtl wing. I was designing my own foam board version of it at the moment. All of a sudden, you have him on your thing, and he's talking about exactly what I just did a ton of research on. I'm like, oh my God, this is the best.
That's cool, man. That's awesome.
And it was so funny because you're geeking out asking all the questions, Pat, that I wanted to ask. I was like, yes.
Dude,
Pat
that was
completely geeked out.
Oh my God, I so did.
Well, if you want to hear more, go back to our episode. We actually broke it into 2 because we talked to him forever.
I will. I am totally going back and checking those out. No, the guy is such a nice guy.
He's awesome.
And
he really is.
what blew me away. Okay, so we did the podcast, and he was like, "Yeah, if you guys ever get out here, blah blah blah." And it so happened that like my wife found this. She got this deal to go out to Laughlin, Nevada. There's like casinos out there or something that I don't give a crap about. For like it was like, I don't know, $100 for both of us for the weekend, flight included. It was stupid.
Wow.
So we're like,
Yeah.
okay, we're going. So I'm like, okay, we're going out there. I was like, hey, Red, you up for a visit? And
Yeah, remember when you said?
right. So I rented a little Toyota Yaris, this thing
that's the car I own.
Oh yeah. So
I love it.
by the way,
It's a great car.
that thing will do over 100.
Mm-hmm. I believe it. It's got
I
a
did it-
lot of get up and go. It actually rivals my girlfriend's. What does she have? A Chevy something or other. It's a muscle car. And she's like, why does this have as much pep as mine does? And I'm like, I don't know, because it's light and fast.
It's a cool little car. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. So anyway, I ended up going out there for the day, and the crazy thing was, they were shut down for the day for whatever reason, and Red happened to have to go there that day on one of his days off, because to get some kind of recertification of something. I don't know if it's a security thing or what, but
Mm-hmm.
so basically he just took the day and took me around the whole base, and it was nuts, man. And I got to sit down with Al Bowers for like an hour and just have a conversation with Al.
Al,
And-
Making him jealous.
I know you make me do. Look, I've actually had a handful of conversations. Like he goes way over my head really quick, and I'm like, I'll be back in 2 weeks while I research this. Hold on, because he goes into detail. He's really smart. He knows what he's doing.
But the thing about these guys at NASA, they are so open and welcoming and excited to share what they do with you.
Yeah, they're
I
so
mean,
welcoming.
I didn't at once feel like I was imposing. It was like they were excited to have somebody to talk to about this. It was a great day at a great location. I mean, my gosh, if you can get out there, go. That is a mind-blowing piece of property out there.
Yeah. I will have to say, go to episode 41 of the FTCC is their original conversation with Red. And
Red
probably
Jensen.
go about
Yeah.
another, what is it, about a year, 8 months later. You'll see the episode where he goes out and actually talks about his trip out there. So,
Well, thank you for researching that.
no.
Yeah, I would have no idea.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I did, but
I don't
I
have
want our
that
listeners to
stuff
go
up.
take a look if they're interested. They're both some of my favorite episodes of yours. So,
Thank you.
Well, for me, probably my favorite episode ever was the mashup between the FTCC, RC After Hours at the time.
mm-hmm.
It was actually the Flite Test After Hours, I believe. At the
It
time.
was, yeah, because it was more than just Andre. It was Andre and Mike.
Yeah, it was Andre, Mike Coolins, and
Chris
Chris
Caglione.
Yeah,
Ron Caglione.
yeah.
Um,
What a crew.
And
Talk about a mega episode.
I think, what did we go, 3.5 hours on that one?
Oh my gosh,
Easy.
that whole weekend was just insanely fun.
That was the best episode that I remember, only because I laughed so hard through the whole thing. and of course, those guys are my friends, and those are some of the people that I truly do love.
Yeah.
And we all got to hang out, and then we all got to get on the podcast and talk about the crazy weekend. And that is a weekend that I will relish even after I die.
I have never had so much fun in my life
Ever.
as we had that weekend. I laughed so much. It was just ridiculous.
Awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Yes.
Well, good. And I'm so glad because I mean, that's not why I started this, but that's part of what I'm enjoying about recording episodes with people, because you just never know which one's going to be just, oh my God, that was so much fun.
Yeah. Yeah. And those guys were a riot.
Nice.
So,
Well,
man, that quarter stick of dynamite.
Oh, yeah.
Dynamite.
Yeah. There's a video floating around somewhere on Facebook.
Is that the one that's called what, the Sasquatch sweats? Because I remember
that's a different one.
He has like lost footage of him in the Sasquatch suit for Flite Test or something.
That's Mike Coolins.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, and I figured that might be why that's what it's called, because
there's a whole story behind that too.
That's it. Episode 27, Sasquatch Meat Sweats is what it's called, and it's you're recording with the RC After Hours guys.
That was a Chad Capper, Josh Bixler, Mike Coolins,
mess, fun.
Mess. Yeah.
Well, it was kind of a mess because actually Chad bought a gorilla suit and wanted Josh Bixler to wear it in these woods, Salt Fork Park in Ohio.
Salt Fork Park in Ohio. Yep.
And they had I believe it was a tricopter. I don't even think it was a quadcopter. I think it was a tricopter.
Right.
It could have been a quad, but it was one of the two. And this was early on. I mean, like around the time that FPV first started out.
It might have even been pre-flight test.
It was, I believe, it was pre-flight test.
If I remember the episode right, yeah, it was like at the very beginning when they were even thinking about it. They had this like they were just testing out their footage and how to capture stuff and
And so anyway, at the time, Chad wasn't a great pilot. So the only one that was really a pilot was Bixler. Well, Chad ain't getting in no gorilla suit, and they talked Mike Coolins into it.
He's so easy.
And Mike is what a dear friend. What a dear friend.
Oh, I'm just thinking about that guy laughing. Just
makes
he in part kept me into the hobby because of that laugh.
Oh, that laugh is so special.
Go back to the episode, listeners, and listen to that.
Yeah, you gotta. I can't describe it. You'd have to listen to it, but that's one. If you listen to any, that's the one to listen to because you will roll.
Nice.
If you know who Chad is and you know who Josh is, whether Coolins, you know who he is, you'll know him by the end of the show. Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's see. So, who is your favorite guest? I mean, did we cover we covered favorite guest, or are they the same or are they different?
I bet for Pat, Red probably is.
I also really liked when we had Eric Monroe and Jim Bixler.
Bixler, that was a great one.
Those guys, oh my gosh, they're a hoot together. They are just ridiculous
and wonderful friends too.
Yep.
You don't really meet an enemy after, in this hobby.
Not
with Flite Test
out there.
There's
a couple out there.
Oh, I know, but I'm just saying it's really tough to meet one.
It is difficult if they care about the community. It's hard.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but
what about you, Mike?
I don't know. I'm trying to think of who my favorite guest would be, and that's really hard to say because so many of them are. Honestly, man, I can't say because me being a guest with Ron Caglione on FT's podcast, on Flite Test podcast, was probably one of the most special things I did.
Oh, yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
And, of course, Stefan and that whole crew is just...
Yeah.
And I can tell you a little story about Stefan, too, because I didn't like him when I first saw him on the videos.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, there's no way this guy's this way. He can't replace, Josh.
Right.
He just can't. And then I met him. And guess what?
He's that way.
I love that guy.
Exactly like that.
Yeah, I think
He is that guy.
Joe and I got to spend a little bit of time talking to him at Flite Fest.
Was he the one basically calling the combats?
He was, and he was the one we
Yeah.
talked to after the one combat.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's just
Yeah,
he's the most genuine person I think I've met in a long time.
He is just so full of happiness. It's
Yes.
awesome. He is the kind of person you just want to be around.
Mm-hmm. It's good stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yep.
what? Let's go down a different path. What was the hardest
Mm-hmm.
episode for you guys to record? Do you remember?
None of them were hard.
They were easy. How about you, Pat?
There were I don't remember specifics. There were some that I don't feel like I was tuned in enough to, for whatever reason, whether it was just the subject matter was not in my wheelhouse or whatever. But I don't feel like there was anything lacking in that podcast. I just felt like it wasn't my thing. You
Yeah.
know, I just kind of sat back. And, you know, I think for those, I don't remember specifically what those would be, but there were a couple. But like Mike said, I don't know that any of them were hard because we didn't put much pressure on ourselves. We just, you know, we just, like we said, we wanted it to be just like a conversation, folks sitting around and having a good time, having a conversation.
Yeah. Well, it came out that way. You know what I mean? It comes across.
Well, I'm glad to hear that because that was the goal is to make everybody when they listen to it went, wow, I feel like I'm sitting with these guys right now.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted, and that's all I wanted.
And that's a good goal to have because honestly, some of the best podcasts are when you feel like you're included in the conversation rather than there's a conversation that you're listening in on versus like the conversation's being had around you and you're part of it. Like it's not happening over there, you're listening, and it's not a conversation happening at you.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I never wanted anything to be at anybody. It was always about making people feel like the community made me feel.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Well, I think you
If
guys.
that makes sense.
I think you did a good job doing that.
I will say I wish that there was a way to be more interactive with folks during the podcast.
Yeah.
Because logistically, it's so hard to do.
Is that what brought you guys around to YouTube? Because I know you guys were just podcast purely, and then about like you would have once every 3 podcasts or something. You'd say, okay, we're doing a YouTube one.
Mm-hmm.
And
well, I think the YouTube one actually started a bit because of the build nights, which was Eddie Black and Ben Greenwald's idea.
Okay.
It was those guys that really ran that, and we had to figure out how to do that. And we tried, all these different things, and the only thing that really worked was, at the time, it was called Google Hangouts. But you did it on YouTube. Mm-hmm. And we did that, and it worked. And as we continued on in the podcast, making of these podcasts, we saw that, we could chat and we could talk, and it just worked, and, I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm not real pretty to look at, but for whatever reason, people did tune in, and we enjoyed that. And
it was because of me, because I'm pretty to look at.
It had to have been you, because it definitely wasn't me.
How did you know, Pat?
I fantasize and make things up in my own head. It's all good.
It's fair enough.
Well, on the point of y'all's build nights, and I think Matthew had said that he drew inspiration from some other guys when he was talking to me about the build nights. So
it was these guys.
Okay.
Well, it wasn't us guys. It was Eddie and Ben.
Yeah.
And I give all the credit to those guys because, we started that in our community cast, as it was Eddie and Ben's thing, and we even got to do it for a few years at Flite Fest.
Mm-hmm.
And to have, Josh Bixler and those guys come up and say, "Hey, would you do this?"
Right.
Was
now your build
over
nights
the top.
We're done a little differently than ours have been. Like we went a slightly, partly because I wanted to do something a little different. I wanted yours to be yours. I mean, what you guys were doing with Eddie and them, like that's, it's a great idea. And I think, and maybe that might be some way how we do it, but the way you guys were doing it was what? Like,
well, we picked an airplane.
Mm-hmm.
And we picked a time, and I think we started out at 2 hours, and they always went like 4.
Yeah.
But
you pick like something like the Bloody Baron or something. Everybody would basically print out some
we
plans,
would pick whatever,
get them on the foam board and get them cut out, and then the point was is if you got your stuff all ready, we'll all build this together.
Yep, and if you had problems, you could ask a question, and we would try to help you understand what was happening during that build. Now, it wasn't like a build video like Josh and, the whole Flite Test crew put out, but it was the same kind of thing, because the problem that I saw with the build videos was there was never any interaction. It was do this, pause here, or do that. And we thought,
wouldn't it be nice? Because
no, it actually, I think, and I'm probably going to step on Eddie a little bit, only because I think where he got the idea was building at Flite Fest.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
when we built there, everybody got together and kind of built together, and then they go, "Hey, I'm having a little trouble here," and there would be help, and it would go back and forth just in the build tents.
Yeah,
and then
part of what
it just evolved into and it evolved into the build nights, and I mean, we didn't do a ton of them, but man, the ones we did were fun.
Yeah, they were.
Yeah, absolutely.
They were fun.
I think they're still on YouTube, so if you want to see what they look like, go cut out whatever plane it is, get them ready and build along with.
Yeah, because I'm sure any problems you have, we had them.
We had them too.
Right?
Yeah.
So I'll tell you what. So when I watched them, I never got myself a plane ready or whatever. But I knew what you were building, either because I just built it, the week before. I was like, oh man, I wish I'd known. But what I think what I liked about it, and I think that's part of why I brought this aspect to what we're doing, is I enjoyed just everybody talking about what they're working on and talking about the hobby and talking about different things here and there. And so that's why our build nights tend to be more like, we're just gonna bring your stuff, bring us to your build table, and whatever you build on, we'll all just chat about stuff. And then, what do you, because we were like, what are you working on over there? Oh, check out those. How did you get that going on over there? Like, oh, neat. And then somebody's like, hey, well, have you ever tried doing this? This is what it looks like. And we'll share that. And I mean, that's what was going on amidst that group build, which I thought was really neat. And I think, I know it happens in ours, but it's, to me, it's about bringing the community together. And that's really what they're all about.
Yeah, that's exactly what they were about. More than anything else, it was just everybody, again, at least at my club, they call it bench flying.
Yeah.
It's you're not out at the field flying, you're sitting down, you're talking about either flying or, problems that you're having with, I mean, like most of the guys that I fly with are still, what they call gassers. So, they're running nitro and all that. And they talk about, oh, well, I had to do this to a motor, or I had to do that, or I had to do this, and that's kind of what build nights were for us anyway. I mean, we wanted to build a specific plane that we thought the community would want to build and try to help them build it, but also, sit around and bench fly.
And part of it at a very basic level was just, set this time aside where you're going to sit down and you're going to do this, because I have a hard time doing that myself. I mean, having a reason to sit down and build is helpful to me.
Yes. Yeah. That is something, that is something that we could, that it is nice because I'm like, okay, I'm definitely sitting down and doing this at this point. I'm doing something.
Yeah. Unlike doing a podcast and then just start sanding randomly on a piece of wood.
I've been on my best behavior tonight.
You've done very well tonight. I'm very impressed.
I mean, the table almost collapsed, but I had to go take care of that. But,
Well, can you imagine what would have happened if you had been sanding?
No, it would have been a disaster.
Yeah.
So if for those of you listen to one of the build nights, or actually almost any episode of the FTCC, and you will hear Pat sanding away at whatever he's got going on, whether that be foam or balsa or whatever, always. And it's like Mike or Joel's like, Pat, are you sanding in the background? We're having a discussion here. He's like, I can talk while I'm doing this. It was awesome. A lot of fun. And I think that's ultimately really what comes through every episode that you guys put together. And is that you guys are having a good time together. And
we truly did. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it definitely comes through. So I guess we'll end the interview section. I'll call it the interview section in the sense of what I've got it for interviews is where are you going now? Unless Joe's got something. He's got an idea.
Yeah, I did. And rewinding a bit to your conversation about the build nights and why you went to YouTube for the interaction and such. When we brought you, or when you guys popped in, I was initially explaining, like, we gave you a role, or I gave you a role in our Discord server so you could come into this channel. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that I've bounced off the wall myself a couple times, and I think I may have mentioned to Matt once or twice, like, Discord would allow us, when we're doing these things, to have permission set up where, like, you guys and us can talk and chat, and we can have a conversation, but others could join the channel to observe. They wouldn't be able to talk, they wouldn't be able to interact, but they would be able to listen. Mm-hmm. So, like, when in these situations where we're doing interviews, or if Matthew and I are just recording an episode, that's two of us. Now, as guys who have done this and did things to encourage listener interaction or community interaction, as a guest on a show, would that be something that you'd be okay with, or would you be like, I don't know how I feel about being in front of a bunch of people that can't interact but are there to listen to the first take of it? Am I making sense with that?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I have no issue with it. I think that would depend on each guest. Mm-hmm. Personally, I welcome that kind of thing because I want people to see I am who I am, whether the camera's on me or not. Mm-hmm, right. That's one of the nice things that the people that know me, they know exactly who I am. I don't pull punches. I don't behave a certain way around certain people. I've been who I am, and I will always be who I am. And for the people that don't like me, I understand it, and that's fine. You're not hurting my feelings.
You can enjoy that over there.
Yeah. Well, when we were on YouTube, we were streaming live. So, it was very much that situation where people were watching us, and they could comment in the little chat window. So yeah, I enjoyed that. That, to me, that was the best part of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, and I don't know if because I'm not that familiar with Discord, but if you have a way for people to like text chat, during this, to me, that was real important to us because then we were connecting with those people without them being so intrusive as to necessarily disrupt the show. Yes. Mm-hmm. And that was, to me, that was important because at least our podcast was about the community. Mm-hmm. I mean, we wanted them to be part of it. And so we encouraged people to come in and ask questions and comment. And, if somebody got a little disruptive, the nice thing about it is you do have the control
Right.
to boot them right out. If you know, and I don't think we ever had to boot anybody.
No, I don't think. The couple
I
times
don't
I
think
watched,
we
I don't
ever-
think that happened. And nobody got
I
really
don't think
obnoxious.
it ever-
That's why.
No, I mean, hell, we were probably more obnoxious than
I know I
anybody
was.
asking questions.
So didn't we do one or two where we had like Ben or Eddie as the moderator, where we bring people in and then for a moment or three, and then
Yeah, have them ask
one.
their question in person on air, as it were. You know, yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's difficult. I mean, it was logistically difficult,
Yeah.
as I recall.
Yeah, I know you guys were definitely taxed. I remember you guys being very like, "Oh, okay, wait, what's going on?"
Well, and part of that was just our unorganized podcast itself.
Yeah, it's fine. It didn't distract for me, but I just remember you guys going like, "Oh man, this is another thing." Okay, wait, what's going on? And I also recognize that also as being new. You know, I mean, it was something you were trying. You were hoping it would be what you wanted, which was a more interactive experience between what you're doing and the community you're trying to service by, putting this podcast together. You know.
Yeah. And it got towards the end of us recording until we record again. Towards the end of it, it was pretty much the same people that would come in and watch and ask questions, and it got much easier because
You knew them.
we knew who those people were. Not only by just their name, going across the screen, but we met probably 90% of them.
Yeah.
So they were friends as well. So for us, it was much easier to go, oh, well, Luis has a question, or, Ben has a question, or Josh Orchard has a question, or Josh Finn, or whoever the case may be.
There, right?
Yeah. And there was a lot of fans that we didn't get to meet, that I still feel terrible about. But that's a whole nother story that I was told you I was going to talk to you about.
Yeah. Well, do you want to talk about that now? I really only have one more question that I think would be that we should cover, and that's really where is Flite Test Community Cast going to go? Have you guys talked about it? What are you thinking? Is there a plan?
As of right now, there's no plan necessarily. I will say I miss it. I miss doing it. I miss doing it with Pat. I miss the community. It's been a long time since I've been around these people, and I miss them. I mean, my heart truly hurts. I know, it sounds cliche, but my heart truly hurts. But I don't have the focus right now to do it.
Right.
At this moment, I don't. Not that I don't want to do it, because I do want to do it, because I miss it. I just don't have the focus to go, okay, we're going to start this back up yet.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I'm at with it. And Pat continually goes, when are we doing this? Come on, Mike.
I do bug him, but at the same time, the last, at least the last 2 years, we just haven't been where we would have to be to really do good service to it.
Right. And that's kind of like what Joe and I don't say we struggle with it, but it's something that we are aware of as we continue our podcast is how active are we in the hobby? I mean, if we're routinely and continually not in the hobby, at some point you got to say, okay, well, what is this bringing to people in the hobby? This has to be something that's a benefit. I'm like, why would you come and listen other than you just love the sound of my voice? That's weird. Well, I hope people at least don't find it grating. It's like, I want to provide something to the new flyer, the new RC guy. I like to, Joe is my noob, my local noob. He's my guy. He's my one of my best buds, but he's also the new guy. So when he's got like, what in the heck is going on here? I don't understand this. Like, perfect. That's the question I would forget to remember, because
that is such. So having that is such a value to what you're doing.
Because I want to help anybody getting in this hobby have a better experience. I know that's what Flite Test was about getting people into this hobby and having them get through those dumb hurdles that are so present, because this hobby has so much to offer. I think anybody who's interested in flight at all, even if it's your head kind of goes, oh, that's a pretty eagle or whatever. Like that's, that right there, you probably have enough to get in this hobby.
Yep.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the things, when I talked to Pat and Joel when this all first started, and you can go back to any of our episodes at some point, I'm sure I say, if we don't have a good, something to bring to you, we will not put out content.
No, that was something we said over and over again throughout our entire time doing the podcast. Was we're not going to have a regular schedule because we can't just invent something interesting to talk about. If we don't have something to talk about, who wants to listen to us ramble?
Apparently a lot of people is what I've been learning about a lot of different things, partly in the way I listen to shows. There's a quadcopter podcast called the FPV Show. And Mike, if you haven't listened to it, go listen to it.
I've heard it a few times. That's a pretty good bunch over there.
Yeah, there's something about the chemistry between all of them that tickles I could listen to them every week, all the time, talk about their lives. I don't care if they're talking about quads or FPV or whatever. I mean, I do because I'm interested. But at this point, they could be talking about fixing a car. I don't care. They're just ridiculous and a lot of fun.
And that's the thing is now that you know those personalities, whether you know them for real or not, you know them.
Yeah.
They may not know you. You know them, and you're like, I like these guys. I want to hear them.
Are you kidding me? Those are the guys I grew up with. I mean, I'm telling you, they remind me of everybody I grew up with. I'm like, I love these guys.
Yep.
This is great.
Yep.
I want to call them up and rib them, and I feel bad because when we got together, you only know me a little bit, and I'm ribbing you left and right, and I'm like, I probably shouldn't do that. I'm like, but I feel like I know you guys, and you'll be all right.
Bring it.
You can handle it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, and that's kind of leads in a little bit to the story. Patrick and I were walking down the main aisle of Flite Fest in 16? Maybe 17.
Was that the year of the parachutes, the paragliders?
I can't even tell you.
It doesn't matter, probably, really.
Yeah, it really that. Well, what happened was him and I are walking and we're talking, and we couldn't walk how far, 40 feet, 30 feet, before somebody'd say, "Hey, that's Mike off the podcast," and they started recognizing me by my voice.
Yeah, by your
and
voice.
I lost my mind. I told Pat, I said, "This is not real. This is not happening."
It was surreal.
Because
it was surreal.
I flat out could not believe that people were listening to us. I just couldn't.
I don't know why.
And I think Pat maybe froze.
Pat, you still there?
He's froze.
Oh, heck.
Oh, I hope that's just Discord that's frozen.
I know.
4 minutes later.
Welcome back, Pat.
He's saying,
Hey, am I back?
"Hey, there he
You
is."
are.
Okay,
Yes.
yep.
Cool.
If the
Welcome
audio's
back,
working, that's cool. Hopefully, Audacity did not stop, so that means we all still have the timestamps right.
Yeah, Audacity is still doing its thing.
Heck yeah!
Awesome.
Okay, good.
Yeah, start. Yeah, it was. I think Discord took a crap on my end. It went away and said it was not available. Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah,
we can. So
Can't see
that
you,
is
but we
fine.
can hear you.
one of the
Okay.
drawbacks of Discord. It brings a lot of positives, and I'm willing to take the good with the bad.
There
Sadly,
he is.
There you are. We're all back in here.
Hey, I'm back.
Yeah.
So, Mike,
Discord's a very nice platform for us, but it's not the most well-built thing in the world.
no, it does so many good things. So Mike was saying that basically he was kind of, when you guys were walking down the main aisle, and people would recognize you guys by your voices.
Not me, him. He's the one with the with the distinct voice. But yeah, it was a surreal experience. Like people
Very.
coming up to you and asking you to sign stuff. I'm like,
Yeah, I ain't nobody. Why you want my autograph? What do you?
Okay.
I don't have that much money. You can't forge anything. So.
it was a very cool experience. It really was.
It made me feel unbelievable, but I was also just shocked because I'm like, who really? And then of course I did get into Podbean and start looking and seeing the downloads and all, and I was like, there's really that many people downloading our podcast? Are you kidding me?
Yeah, right.
I mean, I couldn't believe it. I was like, that's crazy. And I mean, not just in the United States, and it wasn't just in North America. It was South America. It was Africa. It was Israel. It was, I mean, China. It was, and I'm
Australia.
going, are you kidding me? Yeah.
We have somebody from Japan. It's just every once in a while, like, how in the world? This is great.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one of the neat things when we get on the build night. I mean, there are people who are in Europe, reaching out and saying, "Hey, man, can I join your build?" I'm like, why would you ask? Just come on.
One of our best friends, Asbjorn Valso, lives in Norway, and I miss that big guy.
Oh yeah,
that's our big Viking.
Yeah, I think he made it to the first flight test. I think they kind of highlighted him briefly in one of the videos just because he was there.
He did. I think he was there for the 2014 and 2015. I think 2014 he came with me, and then 2015 he came with, oh my gosh, the guy from Boston. I feel like a jerk now. David Mack. That's the guy.
Dave Mack.
But he, if I recall right, he was a moderator for a little bit, wasn't he? Forums.
I think he might have been. Yeah,
I think
maybe.
I'm blanking on his name. Baloo, right?
Baloo. No, Baloo's from Germany.
Oh,
He's
okay.
Totally from Germany.
All right, my mistake.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, no. Asbjorn's our Viking.
You're Viking.
Yes.
Okay.
Baloo's our dancing bear.
Yes.
That makes sense.
All right. So why don't we finish this up? We have a lightning round, and then love to have you guys cover anything that you want to talk about, anything you want to mention. Just again, we'll thank you for being here. But let's get to the lightning round before we get too far.
Right.
Yep.
So
go ahead, Joe. You do it best.
All right. So lightning round, we're going to ask you a bunch of questions, kind of rapid fire, hence lightning round. Now, because there's two of you, what we're going to do is we'll just go ahead and say, Mike, we'll have you answer first, and then Pat, you can answer second. And this is intended to be the first answer that comes to mind. So I'll generally say this or that, and the first thing that comes to mind, which ideally, theoretically, would be the preference of those two, would be what you answer. As soon as you both answer, we're moving on to the next one, unless, giggles ensue, in which case we'll chuckle for a few. All right. Everybody ready then?
Let's do it.
Matt, why don't you kick us off?
All right. Sit or stand?
Stand.
Pinch or thumb?
A little of both.
I'm thumb. Thumb all the way.
Nice. Brands or OpenTX?
Brands.
OpenTX.
Interesting.
Micro, park, or giant scale?
Oh, now giant scale all the way.
Parker Giant. No micro.
Okay.
Scout, duck, or goblin?
Ooh, goblin.
Snow.
You're hurting me.
I know, right? Snow, water, pavement, or tall grass?
Water.
No.
Interesting.
P38 or P61?
Ooh. God, I'm going to have to go with the 38.
61.
Nice. I think we got some of these answers earlier, but build or fly?
Fly.
Build.
Dollar Tree foam board or waterproof foam board?
Waterproof.
3-cell, 4-cell, or 6-cell?
Oh, 6L.
8.
Yeah, really, 12.
As fast as we can get it.
Planes or quads?
Quads.
Planes.
Axis or allies?
Oh, allies all the way.
Allies, man.
I'm sorry. I'm talking purely planes. Like purely the actual craft, not like do you prefer
Allies all the way.
Okay.
Allies, but I do like the Focke-Wulf 190.
Yeah. So that's
There's
where
a few
the
Axis planes I like, but
I'm a big fan of the Horton and the Messerschmitt style stuff. So I'm always like, ooh, I don't know. Okay, go ahead. Joe?
Landing gear or belly land?
preferably landing gear.
Oh, see, okay.
But
Now this I can't answer straightforward. I just okay. Let's just start with no retracts because they always fail.
So your answer is
I'm
no
with you.
retracts.
No retracts.
That's a good answer.
Okay, fair
Great
enough.
answer.
All right. FAA rules, are they good or bad?
Bad.
Ridiculous.
Okay. Maybe.
And
And last but not least, and creamy or chunky? Your whole reputation,
Oh,
hinges on this one.
creamy, baby.
chunky, man.
And if you add marshmallow fluff, does it change your answer?
Ooh.
I can't do the marshmallow fluff. I just can't do it. I can't. No. It scares me. I had heart surgery. It doesn't.
Fair enough.
I'd be willing to substitute Nutella at this point.
Oh,
No.
Nutella is so good.
Nope.
No, it doesn't change your answer. All right.
I mean, it's not. I'm not a big fan of it, but
Nice. Well, congratulations on making it through the lightning round.
All right.
on.
well, guys, thanks for playing along.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Tough.
Well, this one has been going on rather long, and I appreciate you guys hanging with us. So,
Very much.
briefly, we're going to go into our workbenches for a minute. We'll, Mike and then Pat, y'all want to talk about anything that may be on your workbench for the next couple of weeks before we get out of here?
Okay.
Go ahead, Pat.
Yeah. But you would not believe the crap that's on my workbench right now. I have more projects than I know what to do with, but I haven't worked on any of them in a long, long time.
Well, what are you going to work on these next couple of weeks then?
I'm still pushing forward on the 6-scale Sopwith camel.
That's a good choice.
Nice.
I'm looking forward to seeing that then. Are you going to post that on the forums? FT forums?
Once I get far enough along, yes. I've learned my lesson not to start posting things until the end is in sight.
Okay. Fair enough. I think that's part of my problem too. Mike, what about you?
Well, I do have that 51-inch AJ Slick I need to finish. Again, it's just a pull rudder is all I got to get finished on it. I just have to get that done. And then I do have 2 brand new FPV air units.
Okay.
That I got 2 quads that need to go on the bench at some point. But my first thing's going to be getting batteries.
Yeah. Oh, I meant to ask you guys, digital or analog?
Digital.
Digital.
Do you guys
I
have,
assume you're talking servos?
No, I'm sorry. I'm talking about FPV.
Ah.
Yeah.
DJI, baby.
So it's worth the money? Because that's an awful lot of money.
It is a lot of money, but I started out on some head plays,
Okay.
and they were really immersive, and I liked that.
Okay.
And I did buy a set. They're not not Fat Shark, but they're very close to Fat Shark style goggles, and they just weren't the same. And I flew.
You like the box
thankfully,
goggle
somebody
then?
else's. I did,
Okay.
yes.
I could see that.
And
though.
then I bought the DJIs after viewing through those once. And I have yet to pick up my analog goggles since.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about. If I go one way, I'm
And-
not coming back.
They're immersive. They're very clean. They're clear. Range is amazing. There's nothing like them. And I got the version 1, not the version 2.
Okay.
So there's 2 out there.
Yeah.
They quit making, V1. Now they're in V2, and I have the V1s. I wouldn't trade them for anything.
Okay. All right, and that's awesome. One of those things that's kind of been. I haven't met too many people who actually have used them.
Oh my God, they're fantastic.
Okay.
The penetration's much better than your standard 5.8 or whatever.
Yeah, far less like a loose signal. Okay.
Well, if you do, it's going to be gone, and you'll know it because you'll start seeing pixelation happen before.
Okay.
So you do have time. I mean, kind of like, with analog, you can fly through the snow a bit.
Yeah.
The snow, but I find the experience with the digital, and it could be, shark. What is it? Shark bite.
Yeah,
I think
shark
is
bite
what
is
Fat Shark says.
Mm-hmm.
I think you can do the same thing there as well. So I'm not. It's just because DJI come out with it first. I've flown their stuff. I know their quality, and their quality's really good.
Yeah.
So I just went with it because it was like, if you go buy a set of Fat Shark HDOs, the cost is the same. The biggest difference is, of course, these things, the camera and the air unit.
Yeah.
That's where the money, continues to bite you.
Yeah. Every time you want another unit to put somewhere, you got to pony up $150 at least.
I think these were 169.
Yeah.
And I've got 2 brand new ones that birds that I guarantee I could probably get 200 plus out of them right now.
They're just burning holes sitting on your workbench.
Well, you know what? They're mine to burn.
That's true. Nice answer. Well, good. Okay, so you're going to be putting a couple quads together. Is there anything else on your workbench at all, or
nothing that's not already flyable?
Okay.
So, yeah.
Joe.
Yeah. So, I foresee.
He's tired.
I'm just thinking. I foresee honestly nothing getting done before we sit down to record again.
Thank you for being honest, my friend.
Yeah, sorry about that. I mean, so this coming weekend, which is when this episode is being released, Rachel and I are heading out of town. We got Fire Pit for our LARP group, so that's a weekend of hanging out and just chilling with folks. And then the following weekend is Thanksgiving weekend.
Mm-hmm.
And
no, it's not. It's
not. That's a blank weekend. I'm getting my weekends messed up.
Yeah.
So we got a build night. Okay, I take it back. Then I may be able to get some stuff done on build night. Possibly continuing the 7, maybe doing the canopy, working on the duck some more.
Okay.
I was like, go ahead.
I got a question.
What you got?
Did you say LARP?
Yes.
Really?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Thank you.
I met his wife.
Yeah.
We play D&D at my house, and he's we kind of expanded the group, and we've brought actually half the LARP group plays in the one game, and we've been playing it all remotely lately. But yeah, I met his wife through playing D&D. She just was bored one day and said, "I think I want to try this. Hey, look, there's a random guy who's playing the game. Let's just go over to their house." And she was talking to my ex at the time. And she shows up. My ex is in the shower, and she's just like, some random guy answers the door, like, "Oh yeah, I think you're for the game." Anyway, so she shows up. Everything. We have a good time, and then we get to know Joe, and now we're all good friends. So,
and we're still playing that same campaign.
Keep trying to get them to go somewhere. They keep going, "I want to talk about this wall some more."
No, you throw us in 100 different directions. You're like, here's a bread trail, and here's a bread trail, and here's a piece of candy, and here's a Skittle, and here's a Pez dispenser. Anyway.
Sorry, I just heard that and was like, wait.
That's it.
No, you're good. So did you ever LARP in your past?
No, I did not, but enjoyed watching others. Mm-hmm. By all means. I've seen a lot of stuff on it, and it looks like a ball.
It is. So in all transparency, there are different LARPs. We are not a hard contact LARP. We're not one of those guys. We're not one of those groups out there that are swinging and hurting each other. We're soft contact. We're light immersion. But yes, I go out there. I put my elf ears on and I paint my hair green and I dress up.
He's in it to win it.
And the only thing that matters is if you're having fun.
It is a weekend out of town where you don't have to worry about stuff. Absolutely.
There you go.
That's a win.
That's it.
That is a win.
That's a win in my book. Yep. Matthew, what's on your bench?
I'm gonna go just over, I guess, 2 items. I mean, there's a million things on my bench, but I'm gonna say the Black Widow's on my bench. I'm gonna get that done. I want to get that in the air because that Warbird special is going to be rescheduled pretty soon here, and it would be really cool to bring that out and fly that around and have a lot of the old timers go, "Is that made out of foam board? That looks pretty good." You're like, "Yeah, it looks better than your crap. I'll show you." Telling me what I don't know about Dollar Tree foam board. No, we have a couple guys who are actually, I'll call Flite Test foam board champions, and they've flown 3D, they've flown a million different other things. They're like, "Yeah, but you know what? I don't have to worry about this.
Yep.
I can fly everything like stink, but this also flies really well. And I don't care. It's a lot of fun." So
Yep.
I was like, okay, cool. So it's nice. Anyway, so I'm going to make sure that gets done. I'm trying to think if there's anything else at this point. Probably not. I'm going to work on whatever suits my fancy past that. So it'll be fun.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Mike and Pat, do y'all have, like this sort of, we're going to work our way out the door. Do y'all have anything y'all want to plug before we get on out of here? Anything going on for you?
I want to plug congratulations to Noah Bixler and Haley Keckner, who got married this weekend.
Oh, that's
just
right.
got
Yeah,
married this
congratulations to
weekend.
them.
Yep.
It's official. The two families are stuck together forever.
They are, yes.
Yes, they are.
Blending of the Bixlers and the Keckners.
That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yeah, the only thing I want to plug is the Aviation RC New podcast. You guys do a great job. I'm serious. I like what you guys are doing. Keep doing it. It's good stuff.
Well, we appreciate that. I know I appreciate it very much. Sometimes it feels like we're shouting down a well,
We always felt that way, but then in the end,
We didn't care.
well, no, it wasn't that we didn't care, but when we saw that people were listening and we did touch people,
Yeah.
man, such a good feeling, and
It really was.
and you guys are doing it as well.
Yeah.
I mean,
that was part of the goal, is to carry on that tradition of helping the noob, keeping a hobby, bringing the community closer together. A lot of the same things that you guys started your podcast for are the reasons why we wanted to bring this together. So
you bet. And you never know, you may see us again.
I hope so. Honestly, if you guys are needing someone to chat at, or just want to talk hobby, or you have an idea you want to bring out to some of the listeners we've got, just holler out. See what we can do.
Absolutely.
Cool, man. Thank you.
Would love to do that.
Yeah, it's been a good time. This has been fun, man. I've really enjoyed this.
Yeah, we have
guys. Thanks for coming on. And from the noob who hadn't listened to and hasn't been in forever and doesn't know a whole lot of history, like Matthew asked, joined him on board, and we've been doing this thing. But to meet the guys that kind of served as his inspiration for doing it, and knowing kind of where some of the roots of our podcast come from and some of the things we do, and while he and I have discussed them and developed them, just knowing where those roots and getting to meet them has been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for coming on and hanging with us.
Thank you very much, Joe. I appreciate that greatly. And again, I've got to take it all the way back to Michael Hancock and the Crash Cast. Those guys are the ones that really they inspired it all.
They really kind of led the charge on it, because I think they were probably one of the first RC podcasts that I know about.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I don't think they were absolutely the first.
No,
but I guarantee you couldn't count on 5 fingers that they wasn't one of.
Well, didn't they? No, I'm just. So he how long did he run his podcast for? It was a long time. He did it weekly
it was a long time.
3-4 years solid. But it was like a weekly podcast, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he had a number of guys with him
involved.
too.
Yeah.
He had like at least 5 or 6 guys. That were always there.
Yeah, he always just had somebody in the background. It's like, oh, you want to come on and talk? Oh.
Yep. Yeah, nobody knew who they were, but nobody cared.
No, it didn't matter. It was great. So if you haven't heard it, go out and listen to the Crash podcast. If you can find it, it's worth a listen. FTCC podcast is always a favorite of mine. If you want to hear more about Red Jensen and his escapades, or go and listen to the FT After Hours joint group that they did on was the episode whatever I said earlier.
Yeah, we
You're
did.
gonna
We
be
did a
laughing
couple of
yourself
those.
silly. It's gonna be a great time. Go do that, and then
because we did do one with the Free Fall RC guys as well. So don't forget those guys.
no, they're on my list for sure. I listened to the matter of fact, I can't believe they're still going. They have 300 episodes.
I know.
Yeah.
I know. They started right. I mean, within a month or two after we started ours?
Yeah.
Weren't they?
And-
Wasn't Kevin our second podcast?
He might have been. He was doing flight test stuff at the time.
Yeah, I don't know.
You know, they started out doing flight
Maybe.
tests, and they quickly moved over to helicopters, and they've been rocking
Yeah.
helicopters ever since.
They went over to the evil dark side.
Steve Yoon
Steve
and
is
Kevin.
yeah.
What's his last
Yeah.
name?
Kevin
Teshner.
Teshner. Yeah. And they've got more guys now, and they've got great people. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Gentlemen,
Well,
let me put a pause on and say we're going to keep chatting. We can keep chatting once we go ahead and hit stop. But if we don't work on getting out of here, we're going to be here all night. So
yeah, I can't do that. I got to work in the morning.
Yeah, I gotta get to work too.
All right.
So thanks for coming and hanging with us. You're now in our Discord, so feel free to come on, hang out, or just pop in and see what people are talking about periodically. But be mindful, there is a way to right-click on the server on the left-hand side and mute the server, because sometimes they get a little talkative and it'll blow your phone up or your computer up if you've got it open.
I keep my notifications off.
There you
I
go.
can't do that.
There's no point in having notifications. There's so much that just constantly
on.
comes
Yeah.
through.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well,
But thank you guys for having us on.
It's a
You never
benefit.
know. This may be the spark that gets us going
That'd
again.
be cool.
So
Could be.
yeah.
okay. Well,
So-
if you do, let us know that you're going to be doing it. We'll let other people know about it.
All right, Joe,
Absolutely will.
you gonna be able to take us out of here? Because last time I only got us halfway out.
Last time you gave it a valiant effort, but yeah, I'll get us on out of here. Guys, as always, thanks for tuning in and listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed this conversation, this episode, as much as we've enjoyed having these conversations. And thank you to Pat and Mike for joining us, hanging with us for probably longer than they originally anticipated. But it's been a good time. If you want to reach out to us, feel free to email us. You can reach us at aviationrcnoob@gmail.com. You can reach Matthew at aviationrcnoob, or
That's
at
me.
joe@aviationrcnoob.com. You can also go to aviationrcnoob.com and fill out the Contact Us form, and that'll come to us as well. Feel free to reach out. Let us know anything that you're thinking about, any flight stories you have. You send us pictures. If you got ideas for things you want us to talk about, feel free to let us know, or to go to your favorite podcast platform, leave us a review, help other people find us, encourage others to listen. And I suddenly started losing myself there, but I think I got it all done.
I think you got everything that needs to get done. So at that point, why don't we just say goodnight to everybody?
All right. Thank you very much, guys. Have a great one.
Thank you for having us here. Good night.
We're glad to have you. Good night. I was with you on many of those build nights. I may not have been like in the chat exactly, but I was watching.
Oh yeah.
I remember it was one of those that started out like a normal day, and all of a sudden by the end, we were watching a different Pat altogether.
Oh yeah. I mean, how many of those podcasts do you hear Pat suddenly start sanding on
Every
something?
time.
I
Every
mean,
time I remember you guys like,
it was
Mike,
like,
Pat, are you sanding again? For the love of God,
Put
we're
it down.
recording a podcast. Please
yeah,
stop.
Put it down.
Could you just move your mic out of the way or something? Like, come on.
Oh my gosh.
I remember.
And
that.
he's the most squirrel guy,
I know.
and I love him to death.
Well, and that's the thing. So we haven't really talked on this podcast at all about drones or I call them. I hate calling them drones, but
That's
quads.
fine. No, it's fine. That's what everyone calls them. I have no problem calling them that.
Because to me, a drone has weapons. I live near Fort Bragg. They fly drones. They have weapons.
100% agree.
They weigh thousands and thousands of pounds. Most of them armaments.
Well, usually a couple of hundred anyway.
Yeah.
And they generally have something on them, either a radar or, I mean, they have a specific purpose other than having fun.
Yeah. They're not, that's a drone. That's what a drone is. Quadcopters, that's fun. That's just a blast. And I have not been able to master them because I insist that I don't need the assistance mode. I can just fly like a drone pilot.
Well,
I can fly like a DRL master.
Keep going that direction. Do not start putting in auto level and all that, because
if I get a drone,
to mess you up.
I'm probably going to get one that's going to be a camera platform, and that will be purely that.
And that's fine.
Because it's a camera platform, but the other ones, heck no.
I have a Phantom 2 Pro.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a Mavic and sold it, and I have the Mavic Air now.
Okay.
And I haven't flown the Phantom in forever, but that Mavic Air I do fly once in a while because I do like that.
We lost you there for a second. Okay, you're back.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
I do like that camera platform.
Yeah, it's good.
And it's a great platform. It can do a lot of things, and it can fly forever. I mean, when you're talking 25 minutes,
you're tired.
That's a
through
long time to fly.
Yeah.
But flying that way, I mean, you can position it, you can put it down, and walk away from the controller and everything.
Yeah, it's not the same experience.
No, not at all. No. You get into these, 5-inch freestyle / racers.
It's a different animal.
And they're 80 plus miles an hour. Get out of the way, they'll kill you.
Yeah, they will. They'll cut a jugular on the way past, and they won't care.
Oh yeah, and they won't even stop.
No, they won't stop. They'll they'll get through everybody.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's funny because I'll ask people. People ask me like, "Hey, how long does that fly for?" Because that's always the question. How fast is it? How long does it fly for? I'm like, well, it can go probably about 150 miles an hour, honestly. I said, but that's just too fast. And they're like, whoa. I'm like, how long? And I'm like, 2 minutes. And they're like, oh, just 2 minutes. I'm like, have you ever flown at 120 miles an hour, being able to go any which way you want for 2 minutes solid? It's not easy. It's really stressful. By the end of that 2 minutes, you're like, oh, thank God.
Out of control for 2 minutes.
Yeah, pretty much. Controlled chaos.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's controlled chaos.
And it's awesome. And the little bit I've really gotten to do it, but what I find is I do something dumb and I break it because, again, I'm still learning. And I have other things. I squirrel. I'm, Pat, I feel every word you say because I'm the same way. And I can't keep a drone in the air and ready to go long enough for me to learn enough to be able to just go and enjoy it as much.
I'll be honest with you.
Like I can with a plane. Like now I can fly a plane and I cannot crash it if I want.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, and it's all about, just like in RC airplanes, it's all about muscle memory.
Yeah.
The more you do it, and I'll be honest with you, I've flown 5 different sims trying to learn how to fly my drones better, my quads.
Which one do you feel helps you the best?
The one that probably is the most realistic is, oh God, hang on a minute. Liftoff.
Liftoff. That's the one I use too. I like it a lot. That's the
one on Steam. Now, I will say the DRL one is fun.
Mm-hmm.
Not quite as realistic because I can actually get through a race on the DRL without crashing.
Yeah.
So it's totally not realistic.
Well, it's not 100% realistic for sure because I can throw it around a lot faster.
Yeah.
In liftoff, I cannot. If I try to race, I miss gates constantly.
Yeah, it has a lot. It does
in the DRL,
more with the inertia.
Yeah, it really does. It's and none of them are really good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But of all of them, the liftoff is probably the best that I've flown.
Yeah. Well,
and
nice.
you just go in there and you fly and you fly and you fly.
Yeah.
And you'll get to where, I mean, because I go out and fly now with my quads, and I don't crash near as much unless I have a radio glitch or something else happens.
I had a
burnout
little guy, like a 2-inch, 3-inch guy with the protection things. And that was going, I mean, that zips, and I was actually getting pretty good because I could just go in my front yard and race it around the front yard and get practice every day for like 3 or 4 batteries. And I was actually getting pretty good. And then something happened and I don't know what, and I couldn't fix it. I'm like, oh, it stink.
Yeah. The Tiny Hawk's a really good one.
Yeah.
For a small one.
Yeah.
The Tiny Hawk is fantastic. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah, we put the music in and did all that, and but it wasn't.
Music?
You need to go back and listen to at least one of our podcasts.
I don't listen to podcasts. I don't know.
He's like, I was there. Why do I need to listen to it again? We are shocked every time we have more than like 5 listeners. You know what I mean? Like, we're like, I can't believe people want to listen to this. This is great.
Dude,
I mean, cool.
I know that feeling. Like, we were blown. Like, what? Why are these people listening to us?
Yeah.
We're just hanging out talking, man. I don't get it.
Because I know what happened the first time I flew a real airplane. I mean, it may have been 25 seconds in the air, if I'm lucky.
Dude, you got better than me. Nice.
Well, it was a pretty slow airplane, but I still crashed the heck out of it.
But I bet you in that 20 seconds you went, oh, there's a whole new world out here. I need to get more of this.
World.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't you dare close your eyes.
Oh my God.
Man. How many of those podcasts do you hear Pat suddenly start sanding on something? Put it down. Yeah.